Chapter 4852. Feng Liqiang. Feng family patriarch slammed the table fiercely. You can arrange any marriage for my precious little Luo. If you do, I'll marry you off. This slap on the table. Instantly the entire noisy banquet quietened down. Each of them stared at Feng family patriarch quietly, shivering. When they heard Feng family patriarch's roar, all of them were speechless. Marry the acting god emperor off? Did Feng family patriarch want to drive the acting god emperor out of the Feng family and let him marry into the family? It looked like Feng family patriarch really doted on this Miss Feng. However, the acting god emperor didn't seem to like this Miss Feng very much. As expected, Miss Feng was the adopted daughter that Feng family patriarch forced the acting god emperor to acknowledge. The noble circle was really messy. They didn't dare to say it and they didn't dare to ask. 8. Read book. 2. It was better to hug herself tightly and shiver. Everyone's mind was filled with rich imagination. And the main character who was roared at had a slight change in expression. But very quickly, his expression revealed a trace of ridicule. He didn't answer Feng family patriarch, but looked at Yiqing Luo. Why? Don't dare? Feng family patriarch was so angry that he grabbed the things on the table and threw them away. Yiqing Luo pressed Feng family patriarch's arm. Her long and narrow eyes were glistening. Her pink lips curled up slightly, looking bright and confident. Sure, little Luo. Feng family patriarch held Yiqing Luo's wrist tightly. If he doesn't want to, he will think of ways to make things difficult for you. Grandfather, believe me. Yiqing Luo smiled gently, her gaze was firm. And believe in my foresight. Feng family patriarch frowned, but looking at his granddaughter's unwavering gaze, he sighed and said, Grandpa will be on your side. Yiqing Luo smiled. I know. She shifted her gaze towards Feng Liqiang, her beautiful eyes rippled. Godfather, don't forget the agreement with me. This is the first agreement between the two of us. Feng Liqiang's pupils constricted for a moment. Immediately, she snorted softly and looked away. If I'm here, I'm afraid father won't be able to hold a proper reunion party for little Luo, he said. I've been resting in bed for a few days. I still have a lot of work to do, so I'll go to the Divine Emperor Palace first. After that, he didn't wait for Patriarch Feng's answer. Then he strode away. Feng family master was furious. Feng Liqiang ran to the banquet hall and wandered around for a bit before leaving. To put it nicely, it was because he valued his adopted daughter. And as soon as he recovered, he rushed to the banquet to accompany his adopted daughter. To put it bluntly, it was the truth. Feng Liqiang had purposely come here to cause trouble. What a scene! Making everyone speculate about Yiqing Luo. He guessed that Feng Liqiang and Miss Feng didn't get along at all. He guessed that Feng Liqiang simply didn't want to acknowledge her as her adopted daughter. It made everyone feel that eldest young Miss Feng Qing Luo's name in the Feng family wasn't proper, and it didn't sound right. Feng clan master sat down heavily. If he had acted a little more like he was on Feng Liqiang's side just now, he was afraid that the entire god realm wouldn't put eldest young Miss Feng in their eyes. Grandfather, don't be angry. Yiqing Luo comforted him. If you get sick from anger, who's going to protect me? She intimately leaned her head on Feng clan master's shoulder. I don't care what others think, no matter what they think, I'm still eldest young miss of the Feng family, grandfather's granddaughter. They won't dare to do anything to me. Feng clan master was pacified by Yiqing Luo to the point of helplessness and heartache. If that kid was half as worry-free as you, I wouldn't be so angry. Chapter 4853. Uncle just has some resentment in his heart. Yiqing Luo smiled. Grandfather, don't need to worry too much. If I didn't have the confidence, I wouldn't have suggested this bet. If Feng Liqiang still cared about Feng Ge, the winner would definitely be her. I do have confidence in you, but as for that lad. Feng family's patriarch sighed and looked at Yiqing Luo solemnly. Little Luo, no matter what that lad wants to do, as long as you're not willing, grandfather will definitely stand on your side. Yiqing Luo nodded smilingly. I know the person grandfather dotes on the most is me. Miss Qing Luo. A resentful voice was heard from the side. Yiqing Luo just turned her head over. She met with a pair of resentful eyes. That pair of demonic phoenix eyes were filled with grievance, and intentionally blinked to act cute. That grievance and resentment were displayed vividly. Yiqing Luo. Ji Wuhua, be more normal. You could imagine. A man who could be described as beautiful was wearing a pink robe covered in horse fleas, and had a resentful and aggrieved expression on his face? Yiqing Luo accepted her incompetence. She simply wanted to give Ji Wuhua's artificial face a tight slap. Little Luo doesn't have me in her eyes. I feel terrible. Ji Wuhua pursed his lips. What if you lose that bet? Are you really going to marry Chongqing? He stared at Feng Chongqing hatefully, as though he was looking at his enemy who stole his wife. Following that, he covered his face. If only I was the acting god emperor's disciple. I also want to bring Miss Qing Luo home. Yiqing Luo controlled the urge to smash the wooden chopsticks in her hand towards Ji Wuhua's mouth. I have never lost a bet. I'm really curious, is the man in Miss Qing Luo's heart really that good? Ji Wuhua's face was filled with doubt. As the saying goes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Miss Qing Luo, aren't you thinking too highly of your sweetheart? After Ji Wuhua asked this question, the few people on the main seat all looked towards Yiqing Luo. Apparently, they were all very interested in Yiqing Luo's so-called sweetheart. Feng Clanmaster's eyes were also filled with worry. She was also worried that because of the reason why beauty was in the eye of the beholder, it caused Yiqing Luo to overestimate her beloved. What he was more worried about was the current Yiqing Luo, her unwavering trust towards her beloved without any reason. He was too similar to Feng Gu in the past. The tragedy of Feng Gu. He didn't wish for Yiqing Luo to repeat the same thing. But when he saw Yiqing Luo mentioning her sweetheart, Ming Yao's charming eyes were overflowing with light. It deeply poked the heart of Feng Clan mistress. No matter how many instructions and helplessness he had, he swallowed all of them into his stomach. He did not want to hurt his precious grandson's heart. Yiqing Luo naturally understood the reason why her grandfather was worried. Her pink lips curled up slightly. It's really good. Perhaps it won't be long before he comes looking for me. After today's reunion banquet, as long as DMO Xian was still in the god realm, he would definitely come looking for her. Don't tell me he's even better looking than me? Ji Wuhua touched his own face as he asked unwillingly. Yiqing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as she replied honestly. His looks are enough to turn all living things upside down. I'm head over heels in love with that peerless face of his. Ji Wuhua's eyes instantly widened. I don't believe it. How could there be a man who was better looking than him in this world? Cough. Although Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhu Wu Xian looked rather good looking. Compared to him, he was just a little bit weaker. Chapter 48-54. He absolutely didn't believe it. How could there be a man who could match his face? It doesn't matter how he looks like. Feng family patriarch interrupted Ji Wuhua's nonsense. The most important thing is his ability, character and background, and most importantly, does he treat you well? Yiqing Luo smiled and asked in reply, love me more than yourself, even giving me your life, is that considered good to me? Feng family patriarch's pupils shrank slightly. He held Yiqing Luo's hand tightly. Grandfather believes in your foresight. I hope to see him soon. And then, let you win the bet with that kid. Very soon, you will be able to see him. Yiqing Luo nodded. I will win. Ji Wuhua muttered softly. I can also give my life to you. But no one bothered about his nagging. Yiqing Luo lowered her eyes slightly. Feng Liqiang's resentment towards Feng Ge. This was the only way to get rid of it. She knew. What Feng Liqiang had done to her was nothing more than a small fuss. She just wanted to vent her discomfort in her heart. Although Feng Liqiang wanted to vent her resentment towards Feng Gu on her. But she would never let her marry someone she didn't like. Otherwise, Feng Liqiang would not specially choose someone who listened to her orders, but actually didn't like her. If Feng Liqiang really wanted to do something to her marriage, she would directly drag Ji Wuhua into it. This marriage would definitely become more complicated and more difficult to deal with. Yiqing Luo's slender fingers gently caressed the dark red ring on her knuckles. The rippling red flowing light outlined a lifelike phoenix. She lightly hooked her lower lip. So, Xian, you have a heavy mission. If you are in the god realm, then come and find me quickly. She held the profound phoenix ring, her lips curled into a smile, her gentle expression reflected in Feng family patriarch's eyes. Feng family patriarch sighed softly. On the other side, Ji Wuhua jumped from the topic of fighting for Yi Qing Luo to the topic of Feng Liqiang. At this moment, she was tugging at Feng Changqing and asking, Changqing, you heartless man. The head of the Feng clan wants to marry off the acting divine emperor, which means that he will marry into another clan. Will you marry off with the acting divine emperor? Feng Changqing. That's simply impossible, okay? How could a man marry? How could the acting god emperor marry into the emperor's family? If you were to marry over with the acting god emperor, then wouldn't I be able to take advantage of the situation and replace you to get engaged to Miss Qing Luo? Ji Wuhua's eyes lit up. Feng Zhangqing grabbed a piece of pastry and stuffed it into his mouth. The acting emperor won't marry into the family, and I won't marry into the family either. Don't let your imagination run wild. The two of them were just having a simple conversation. To be more precise, it was just Ji Wuhua's own imagination. Yi Qing Luo suddenly thought of something as she tilted her head to look at Patriarch Feng. Grandfather, little uncle isn't married yet? No. Feng clan master shook his head. Feng Ji's matter is too big a blow to him. He doesn't believe in feelings at all. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. Then what about Feng Shi? Feng Shi was only 5 or 6 years old. She had always thought that Feng Shi was little uncle's child. But little uncle wasn't married yet. What was Feng Shi's identity? Cici. Feng clan master's expression changed slightly. He's that kid's child, his biological child. Yi Qing Luo was stunned once again. Not married, but already had a child. Based on Feng Liqiang's attitude towards love. Then, what about Cici's mother? Chapter 48-55. Feng Liqiang didn't believe in women and love. Such a person could have her own biological son? Then the one who got hurt would definitely be the woman. As expected, when Feng Shi's mother was mentioned, Feng family's patriarch's expression changed a little. His eyes were filled with melancholy. He sighed softly. Cici, it was just an accident. Accident? Yi Qing Luo was puzzled. Why did you say it was an accident? Because even that kid doesn't know who Cici's biological mother is. Feng family's patriarch looked at Feng Shi, who was playing around with the maids. He gave a simple explanation of the situation, which was, Feng Liqiang fell into an accident and was schemed against. Feng Liqiang stayed awake and quickly escaped from the place where he was schemed against. But he broke into another room. And then, it was the next morning. When Feng Liqiang woke up, he was the only one in the room, as well as a symbol of a woman's purity and a tassel hairpin. After that, Feng Liqiang flew into a rage and settled the forces who schemed against him with a thunderous force. The mermaids tripped to the supernatural island. He also sent people to look for the woman in that room. Of course, Feng Liqiang didn't look for that woman to take responsibility, but he felt that the woman was in cahoots with the forces who schemed against him. He wanted to find the person and kill them all. But no matter how he searched the entire god realm, he couldn't find that woman. After that, this matter slowly faded away. Feng Liqiang had long forgotten what happened that night. After listening to her grandfather's story, Yi Qing Luo was speechless. What kind of godly plot development was this? It was simply melodramatic to the extreme. She felt like she was watching overbearing president falls in love with me. She didn't expect her uncle to have such a melodramatic experience. Yi Qing Luo suppressed the ridicule in her heart and continued to ask. Then, what happened to Cici? Feng family's patriarch's gaze gradually drifted as he fell into memories. It was a few years ago when Granny Feng heard a baby crying outside the Feng residence. Generally speaking, no one dared to let a baby out of the Feng residence. The Feng residence wouldn't take it in or find a good place for it. But it happened. Not only did Master Feng not leave the baby, but she also took the initiative to rush to the door and held him in her arms. Because there was a thumb ring on the baby's body. Sword Chi Cloud Pavilion. It was a white jade thumb ring carved with an exquisite totem. It was a thumb ring with the word Feng engraved inside. This thumb ring belonged to Feng Liqiang. This thumb ring was the one Feng Liqiang had lost the night she was schemed against. Patriarch Feng brought the infant back to the Feng mansion. Of course, Patriarch Feng would not believe that this baby had anything to do with Feng Liqiang. After all, thousands of years had passed. Even if the woman that night was really pregnant, it was impossible for it to be a baby. Carry it back. He just wanted to know. What was the other party's motive? However, he still had his doubts. In the end, Patriarch Feng used a spell to verify the relationship between the baby and Feng Liqiang. The infant was indeed Feng Liqiang's son. The same blood flowing in his veins was his biological son. This result, it shocked everyone in the Feng family. Feng Liqiang did not believe it at all. She was certain that this was all part of the enemy's plan to make a move on the Feng family. However, the result of Patriarch Feng's spell was an indisputable fact. Feng Liqiang was unwilling to admit it, but she couldn't deny this blood relationship. Patriarch Feng raised him in the Feng residence. Friends who are reading, you can search for Blue, and you will be able to find this site in the first instance. Waste 7th Young Miss. Overlord, be gentle with your love. Chapter 4856. Feng Liqiang seldom returned to the Feng residence. She had been living in the Feng residence with the identity of a young master. Feng Liqiang had spent a lot of manpower and resources on the mystery of Fengxi's birth, but to no avail. No matter why Fengxi only appeared in the Feng residence in the form of a baby after 1,000 years. Fengxi was also the blood of the Feng family. This was undeniable. They could only wait quietly. Fengxi's birth mother, or perhaps the person behind the scenes, would show up to know the real purpose of this. So that's how it is. Yiqing Luo looked at the smiling little dumpling who was playing around with some heartache, that face that was carved out of jade, and that pair of eyes that were like the stars. Extremely cute. Indeed, he looked very much like his youngest uncle. When he grew up, he would look even more alike. No matter how she looked at it, he was her uncle's child. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. Cici has grandfather to love him, and now he has me to love him. He will definitely grow up well. Feng family patriarch's melancholy expression suddenly faded. Yes, Cici still has you as his sister now. He seemed to be sighing. Cici, that child, actually doesn't like to get along with others, and can't play with other royal family or noble children. He is not willing to open his heart and accept other children's kindness. Perhaps it's because Cici knows that he's a child without a mother and that his father doesn't like him, so he feels self-loathing and thinks that his existence is hateful, so his father and mother don't want him. Feng family patriarch's tone was full of heartache. Not willing to open his heart. Self-loathing? Did Fengxi look like such a child? The Fengxi she saw was sunny and cute, like a little angel who could melt people's hearts. Like now, Fengxi was scurrying around among the guests. Her face was full of smiles, and she looked very happy. And the little master who attended the banquet with the elders, he responded with a flowery smile when the young ladies talked to him. How was he like the autistic child described by her grandfather? That's because he treats you differently. Feng family's master smiled gently. Even her always solemn face showed a bit of softness. He likes you. Maybe this is the induction of family affection. Yiqing Luo picked up a piece of soft pastry and passed it to Patriarch Feng's mouth. In the future, with me around, Cici will definitely be as cheerful and lively as today. Just as he was speaking, Granny Feng had already returned. Yiqing Luo found an excuse to leave. Where did Jiang Hongmei go? She asked Fengpa. Granny Feng lowered her voice and said, Miss Jiang seems to be in a bad mood and very angry. She has been very irritable along the way. She would scold all the maids she met on the way. After that, she went to the garden and threw stones into the pond. This old servant watched from the side for a while and heard her scolding young miss, while venting her emotions. Granny Feng's voice sounded a little careful, as she looked at Yiqing Luo's expression. Seeing that there was no change in Yiqing Luo's expression, she continued. This old servant watched for a while and saw that Miss Jiang seemed to be in a bad mood and wanted to vent her emotions, so I left someone to wait there. This old servant came back to report to young Mississippi. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Was it that simple? She had thought that Hong Mei was playing some other tricks. But, based on the bet between her and Hong Mei, if Hong Mei had any brains, she wouldn't create any trouble at this juncture. Chapter 4857. The bet between them. The bet was whether Hong Mei would be chased out of the Feng family. Hong Mei was now protected by Feng Liqiong. If she were to do anything out of line, even if Feng Liqiong appeared again, there was no way to save her. So, if Hong Mei wanted to stay in the Feng residence and survive the reunion banquet, then there was only quiet as a chicken, sitting there obediently as a backdrop. Yi Qingluo thought that Hong Mei was a brainless woman. Leaving the banquet quietly, she must be trying to stir up trouble again. Teeth. Overestimated Hong Mei. That's right. Birds of a feather flock together. To be able to fall in love with Ji Wuhua, that idiot, what brains could she have? Yi Qingluo took a look at her grandfather, who was surrounded by various aristocrats to toast and congratulate him. She thought for a moment and looked at Grandma Feng. Look after grandfather, don't let him drink too much. I'll go to the garden to take a look. Grandma Feng nodded. Yes, eldest Mississippi. Following the banquet, she walked all the way forward, past the huge flower bed, past the luxuriant trees. Yi Qingluo arrived at the lotus pond, which was about 50 meters away from the banquet. He scanned his surroundings but did not see Hong Mei's figure. Where was she? Why didn't she see her? She had just walked all the way here, and she didn't see Hong Mei returning to the banquet. But here, there was no sign of Hong Mei. Yi Qingluo frowned slightly as she surveyed the surroundings. Until she came to a pond which was very close to the pavilion, she saw a few pieces of broken stones and footprints. It seemed that Grandma Feng mentioned Hong Mei venting her emotions by the pond was here. Could it be that she went somewhere else? This Feng family's courtyard seemed to only have this garden as the place for today's banquet. It was also the place where the guests could move freely. But leaving the garden, that was an offense to the Feng residents. Hong Mei should not have left the garden. Unless she ran away by herself to avoid the bet between them, so she quietly left the Feng residence. Suddenly, Yi Qingluo's eyes congealed as her vision fell onto the pavilion not too far away. A cold glint flashed across her long and narrow eyes. She strode towards the pavilion. Her gaze was vigilant as she stared at the pavilion. There was no mistaking it. This was the Yin Qi of the Gloomy Palace. People from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness had appeared here? The Palace of Gloomy Darkness would indeed take action. Yi Qingluo squinted her eyes as her vision slowly swept past those few stones by the side of the pond. The sinister aura of the Tenebrous Palace was not weak. It was obvious that he had just left not long ago. In other words, it was very likely that Red Plum had met with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. With the sinister temperament of the Netherworld Palace, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness would definitely make use of Hong Mei's jealousy. Oh no. Something happened at the reunion banquet. Yi Qingluo's expression sunk as she immediately turned around and headed back towards the direction of the reunion banquet. She was extremely fast. When he came, he strolled leisurely in the courtyard. When he turned back, he was as fast as lightning. When he rushed to the banquet, she had only left for a short period of time. The clamorous reunion banquet was now in a state of chaos. Many guests were running around in a mess. It seemed to be searching for something. His face was filled with anxiety. Yi Qingluo surveyed the surroundings. He didn't see Hong Mei anywhere. Young miss. Granny Feng saw Yi Qingluo and immediately walked towards her. Young miss, it's bad, young master. Young master has disappeared. Feng, she had disappeared. Yi Qingluo's breathing suddenly turned heavy. The expression on her face turned extremely cold at this moment. Chapter 4858. What happened? Yi Qingluo's voice was cold. Granny Phoenix's eyes reddened. I don't know. Feng Bei kept looking at young master. Just now, in the blink of an eye, young master disappeared. Feng Bei was the maid who kept Feng Shi company and made sure she didn't run around. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers clenched tightly. What's the exact situation? Let her come over and explain it to me clearly. Soon Feng Bei was brought up. Feng Bei described the situation just now in a concise and comprehensive manner. but every single sentence was important. Feng Shi was happy today. It was also rare for him to be willing to play around in front of so many guests. As lively and cheerful as someone his age should be. Hence, Feng Bei let Feng Shi be. Feng Bei himself was happy to see young master so happy. So he followed him. The other young masters and young ladies came to invite Feng Shi to play together. Feng Shi was a little scared at first. But she was obviously eager to play with those kids. Feng Bei said a few words of encouragement. Feng Shi had shut herself away for a long time, and didn't have the courage. And because the atmosphere there was extremely lively. And he was alone, so his mood also became low. He sat on the grass and stared blankly. Feng Bei tried to persuade her, but Feng Shi didn't respond. He decided to take Feng Shi to look for Yiqing Luo. Only this Miss Feng could make the young master reveal a smile again. Feng Bei was about to take them away. A cute young lady walked towards them with a stack of pastries in her hands. She stretched out her fair and tender hand to Feng Shi passionately. His daughter was very pretty. She seemed to be able to melt ice when she smiled. Perhaps the little missy's smile was too warm. Or maybe Feng Shi had been lonely for too long. Slowly he put his hand into the young lady's hand. She said, "I'll take you with me to play with them." Then she pulled Feng Shi towards the guests at the banquet. A kid. Another cute and well-behaved kid. And a kid who took the initiative to care about her young master and give him warmth. Feng Bei naturally wasn't on guard. He followed the two kids who were holding hands and walked over. Just when they reached the banquet, someone stood up and bumped into Feng Bei. It was this collision that caused the heavenly palace to tremble. When Feng Bei looked up again, the young lady and young master disappeared from his sight. Yiqing Luo listened quietly. Under the scorching sun, her long and narrow eyes flickered with a gloomy coldness. Deep in her charming eyes, a cold light slowly rippled. "Which family does that little girl belong to?" she asked in a cold voice. Immediately, a Feng family guard brought a couple over. Beside the couple was a little girl who was so scared that her eyes were blurred with tears. The little girl's eyes were filled with tears, and she was holding a sparkling and translucent jade stone in her hand that was flickering with a dazzling light. Just one look and Yiqing Luo could tell that the yin qi was floating above the jade stone. In his heart, he had a rough idea of what was going on. Sure enough, as he listened to the couple and the little girl's statement, it was almost the same as what Yiqing Luo had guessed. There was no other way but, the little girl could not resist the temptation of the shiny jade. She listened to the words of the person who gave her the jade. "Help me take Feng Shi to the designated location." Children were the easiest to make people let their guard down. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness as she stared at the little girl. "Do you remember what that person looks like?" The little girl was so scared that she sniffled. She was scared but dared not to cry. "Yes, I remember." Chapter 48-59. The children of the aristocrats were all trained by the family from the time they could remember. Although they were afraid of Yiqing Luo's questioning, their minds were still clear. Young Miss replied in a trembling voice, That one just now." Sister Yiqing Luo's eyes turned cold but her pink lips were frivolous. "Jiang Hongmei, that smile." It was extremely cold, as if it contained a murderous aura. When Yiqing Luo said the three words Jiang Hongmei, Mr. and Mrs. Jiang were so shocked that they immediately stood up. Miss Feng, how could it be Hongmei? She was reprimanded by us just now, and is reflecting on her mistakes. It's absolutely impossible for her to kidnap young Master Feng Shi. There were several aristocrats with the surname Jiang here. Sis, she doesn't necessarily represent Jiang Hongmei. The young lady's words shattered his fantasy. It's that sister, the sister who bullied Sister Feng just now. Nonsense. The Jiang couple stared at young Miss. At such a young age, you know how to talk nonsense and slander Hongmei. Patriarch Jiang. Young Miss's parents immediately blocked in front of her indignantly. Whether it's slander or not, you know it clearly in your heart. What do I know? Patriarch Jiang's face sunk as he sneered. Don't tell me that the Luo family kidnapped young Master Feng Shi to make use of the little conflict between Hongmei and Miss Feng to slander Hongmei. He seemed to have seen through the other party's plot as he laughed loudly. What a good move you made, you even used your own daughter. Both sides were ready to fight. They were almost about to fight each other. What a joke! Who was willing to implicate themselves in this matter? No one was willing to admit it. The two of them were arguing with each other, which made Yiqing Luo's expression even colder. The aura around them became extremely terrifying. Shut up. Her tone was already full of impatience. I'm not interested in listening to your argument. If anything happens to Fengxi, She paused and suddenly looked up. Her long and narrow eyes were filled with a cold glint, like a sharp blade, as if it could scrape everyone's heart. It was so cold. It was suffocating. I, Fengqing Luo, will represent the Feng family to bury the both of your families. Her words were cold, and her beautiful face, which looked like it was covered by ice, was filled with a biting cold killing intent. The young lady's words were sonorous and forceful, causing everyone's hearts to tremble. They suddenly felt their hearts skip a beat. The two aristocratic patriarchs who were arguing endlessly looked at Yiqing Luo with an ugly expression. Patriarch Jiang clenched his fists. He only felt that this girl, relying on her identity as a miss of the Feng family, really thought that she was someone important. She was just an adopted daughter, who wasn't loved by the acting god emperor. To represent the Feng family. To indulge in fantasy, that was what the Jiang clan lord thought. On the other side, the girl's cold sneer had reached their ears. Whether I can represent the Feng family, you can try. He threw down this sentence. The girl fixed her gaze on the young lady. Which direction did Jiang Hongmei take Fengxi in? The young mistress pointed out the direction subconsciously. In the next instant, the young girl's figure had already disappeared from everyone's sight. There was an uproar at the banquet. The Jiang and Luo families' patriarchs stared darkly at the direction where Yiqing Luo had left, thinking of the young lady's arrogant and unscrupulous words to threaten them. They only felt that the face of the aristocratic family had been thrown away at this moment. The end of this chapter. Way 7th Miss. Overlord, please be gentler. Chapter 4860. Then he looked at Feng Family Master. Feng Family Master, it's a good thing that Miss Feng can become your granddaughter, but Miss Feng is young and impetuous. She always talks about the Feng family. If someone catches this, I'm afraid it will be bad for the Feng family's reputation. When the solemn and cold old man heard this, his eyes were filled with a strong sense of dignity, and he was not angry. His cold eyes looked at the two family heads in front of him. Every word he said was bone-chilling. This family head's Xiao Luo. If this family head didn't dote on her, would she let you people bully her? She can take the initiative to use the Feng family as a backer, and is willing to use the power of the Feng family. I am even happier. As for the so-called weakness, do I look like I am afraid of losing the reputation of the Feng family? The world was vast. Without the treasures, little Luo was in a good mood. Besides, Feng Clan Master's eyes turned sharp, and he waved his sleeve. Boundless spiritual energy gushed out. He attacked without any warning. Before the two patriarchs could react, he was sent flying by Patriarch Feng's attack. He fell heavily onto the banquet table in front of him. The Feng Clan Master's eyes were full of anger, and he was very dignified. If anything happens to Fengxi, neither of you can escape. Yiqing Luo hurriedly chased after him. If it was Jiang Hongmei who took him away, they shouldn't have left the Feng family's courtyard yet. Jiang Hongmei was already working with the people from the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. As long as the people from the Dark Palace were still in the Feng family courtyard, she could sense his aura. As Yiqing Luo chased ahead, she released her sense of perception. He quickly scanned his surroundings. It was because of her that the people of Dark Nether Palace sneaked into the Feng family. It was also because of her that Fengxi had been taken away by the people from the Palace of Darkness. She would never, ever let Fengxi come to any harm because of her. Fengxi was held under Hongmei's armpit, and they sped toward the back door of the courtyard of the Feng mansion at a high speed. The woman's usually delicate and cold face was now twisted crazily. His eyes were filled with deep hatred. Didn't Fengqing Luo care a lot about this little dumpling? She used this little dumpling to lure Fengqing Luo out. When Fengqing Luo rushed over, he tortured and killed Fengxi right in front of Fengqing Luo. Look at her always pretending to be aloof. How long will it last? The guy did. As long as she took Feng Shi out of the Feng family's residence, she would be able to obtain the chance to surpass Feng Qingluo. To be able to trample Feng Qingluo under her feet. Hong Mei's eyes were filled with madness. Ooh! Xiao Tuanzi's soft sobbing voice rang out. Her small hand reached out to grab Hong Mei's waist. What are you doing? Hong Mei cursed. Xiao Tuanzi's eyes were misty with tears. I miss Tualan, Hong Mei. You're not allowed to go. You scared me. Xiao Tuanzi felt wronged. I almost peed my pants. Hong Mei grabbed Xiao Tuanzi's rubbing hand and said, You're not allowed to pee. If you move again, I'll chop off your limbs. Xiao Tuanzi was frightened. She tried to hold back her tears as her little body trembled. Everyone quietened down. Hong Mei prepared to continue on her journey. He heard Xiao Tuanzi's small voice saying, I can't hold it in anymore. I want to pee on myself. Hong Mei, piss on her, piss on her. About the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn later. Xiao Tuanzi stood in the forest and peed. Hong Mei turned to the side and looked ahead, suppressing her anger as she waited for little Dumpling. It took a long time, until Hong Mei was full of impatience. Are you done? The sound of water was still there, but there was no one's voice. At the end of this chapter, Wastrel 7th Miss. Overlord, please be gentle. Chapter 4861. Hong Mei realized something was wrong. She immediately turned around and looked in Feng Shi's direction. However, the place where Feng Shi was just now was no longer where the little figure was. The sound of falling into the water was made by Feng Shi with the water tank nearby. That brat! How dare he trick her? Hong Mei's face darkened. None of the Feng family members were good. Even this 5-year-old child. He was so disgusting that she wanted to strangle him. Hong Mei gritted his teeth. He suddenly looked behind the straw shed not far from the water tank. Vaguely, he heard the sound of withered grass being stepped on. Hong Mei's eyes lit up and he lunged at her with a grim smile. Feng Shi, you'd better not let me catch you. Otherwise, I'll make you beg for death. He had been discovered. Feng Shi curled up in the haystack of the straw shed. The smelly and yellow withered grass covered Xiao Tuanzi's small body tightly. He was even breathing carefully. But Hong Mei had still found him. Feng Shi heard the woman's footsteps getting closer and closer. His heart was beating so fast that he was about to faint. After all, he was just a little girl who had never been stimulated like this. His slightly red eyes were full of confusion and helplessness. The footsteps were getting closer and closer to the haystack. It seemed to have locked onto him. It stopped right in front of him. The atmosphere was very depressing. It had only been a moment, but Feng Shi felt that it had been a long time. The hand reached toward the haystack. Feng Shi hugged himself tightly. He had made up his mind. Once the haystack was pulled away, he would attack with all his strength. Even if he couldn't hurt Hong Mei, he could create a fluctuation of qi to attract the fairy sister and grandpa. The haystack was pulled away. The light shone on Feng Shi again. Feng Shi cried out in surprise. She gathered the cultivation that she had just cultivated and launched an attack forward. Pada! The person in front of her just raised her finger slightly and flicked it in the air. Feng Shi's dark light scattered in the air. Cici. The girl's gentle and pleasant voice came to his ears. A pair of soft hands bent down and pulled Feng Shi into an embrace. Feng Shi seemed to be struck dumb as she stared blankly at this. He was like a god descending from the heavens. The pair of warm hands was like the scorching sun, calming his entire body and mind. Sorry I'm late. The girl gently touched Feng Shi's cheek with her fingertips. Xiao Tuanzi's face turned cold. His body was drenched in cold sweat. It was obvious that he was quite frightened just now. A cold glint flashed past Yi Qingluo's eyes. He raised his gaze and focused on Hong Mei, who was standing at the back of the straw hut, her eyes filled with shock. The moment Yi Qingluo's vision touched the red plum blossom, Hong Mei seemed to be greatly agitated as he roared hoarsely. You, how did you find this place? How is this possible? She had clearly avoided everyone's eyes and ears. She quietly found the most remote path and went to the backyard to leave the Feng family's courtyard. How did Yi Qingluo know that she was here with Feng Shi? And it was so accurate. Yi Qingluo's pink lips curled up coldly. The coldness in her eyes was like a sharp blade. There is a very unpleasant smell on you. Hong Mei's heart skipped a beat. She only felt that the girl's eyes seemed to penetrate her body and directly into her soul. Chapter 4862. No, to be more accurate. Yi Qing Luo was looking at another person through her eyes. Yi Qing Luo was communicating with another person through her eyes. What was it? What on earth was Yi Qing Luo looking at? Hong Mei's heart was fluttering. She had an extremely uneasy premonition. She stared deadly at Yi Qing Luo as her fingers clenched tightly. Yi Qing Luo hugged Feng Shi with one hand as her gaze met Hong Mei's gaze quietly. Her pink lips curled up eerily. Have you thought of the consequences for touching my people? Hong Mei retreated 2 steps as her eyes were filled with vigilance. Yi Qing Luo scoffed softly. Her fingertips moved. A feather fan which was like a raging flame appeared from her palm. Profound energy shot out from the sky. The battle was about to start. Hong Mei wasn't weak. But against the battle-experienced Phoenix Manor and the raging Yi Qing Luo, she wasn't Yi Qing Luo's opponent. Just a moment later, Hong Mei was stepped on the ground. Looking at Feng Shi's icy cold hand, she still hadn't calmed down. Yi Qing Luo's move was to beat her to death, until Hong Mei couldn't take care of herself. Just at this moment, the entire secluded backyard fell. Suddenly, a violent hurricane rose up. Like a Inchi weaved a huge net, enveloping the entire space. Shortly after, a person shrouded in a black robe descended from the sky. That man's black robe was dragged on the ground. He took a look. It was a man. Useless trash. I asked you to bring a child to look for me, but you can't even do such a small thing. The moment the black-robed man opened his mouth, it was as though his surroundings were plated with a layer of sinister cold air. The strong wind blew his black robe, making a loud fluttering sound. Hong Mei's expression changed slightly when she saw that man. As though she was afraid. As though she was unwilling. But she was filled with malevolence and arrogance. Why did it disappear in an instant? Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed as she sized up the black-robed man. She raised her brows casually. Who are you? People from the secluded palace. Everyone calls me Masterine. The black-robed man didn't intend to hide, because the next sentence, he was extremely arrogant. He said, remember this, the name that kills you. Yi Qing Luo gave a light laugh. There are quite a number of people in secluded Darkness Palace who like to be arrogant in front of me. But now, the grass on their graves is already 10 feet tall. She tilted her head and stroked Feng Shi's head with her small hand to comfort her. At the same time, she looked at the black-robed man calmly and said, I think you'll be one of those graves. I can give it a try. The black-robed man revealed his teeth and smiled confidently. The black-robed man in front of him. The aura surrounding him was indeed extremely powerful and majestic. When that kind of terrifying power exploded outwards, Feng Shi did not look too good. His face was strangely pale. Yi Qing Luo injected profound energy into Feng Shi's body to prevent her from suffocating from the pressure. This person from the Dark Palace. She wanted to try it out. However, Feng Shi was present at the moment. She couldn't go all out and fight with the black-robed man. Most importantly, with her understanding of the Palace of Gloomy Shadows. The appearance of this black-robed man. It must be accompanied by some kind of conspiracy. Otherwise, it was impossible for the people from the Palace of Gloomy Shadows to appear. Ever since she came to the God Realm. But the Palace of Gloomy Shadows remained silent without any movement. When she was in the lower realm, the matter of being brought to the God Realm by the Divine Guard Squad. It caused a huge uproar. How could the people from the Palace of Gloomy Shadows not know about it? Chapter 4863. So, the Palace of Darkness had appeared. It must be for some purpose. To specially kidnap Feng Shi. They wanted to make use of Feng Shi to lure her to a certain place. They would appear to lure her. Most likely, it was because there was a new development over at the Palace of Darkness. Yi Qing Luo's eyes narrowed dangerously. The black-robed man snorted coldly. Young lady, don't treat me as the same as those trash. His words had just ended. He jumped up abruptly. He turned into a black shadow as he charged towards Yiqing Luo's direction. What greeted him was a sky full of powerful profound light that seemed to be burning with raging flames. Like a scorching sun, a burning fire dragon, swallowing and spitting out scorching fire snakes. The temperature in the air instantly became extremely high. As if she was in trouble, the air was filled with sparks of fire. It rolled and roared from time to time. Yiqing Luo immediately hugged Feng Shi as she soared into the sky, avoiding the fire snakes. But the next moment, the black-robed man's attack followed closely. A red and black figure. A fast entanglement. The surrounding fire tongues swallowed and spat out even more fiercely, as though it was going to swallow everything around it. About 10 moves or so, 2 bursts of profound rays exploded in the air. Yiqing Luo's figure flew out abruptly. She clasped Xiao Tuanzi tightly in her arms and finally stabilized herself. On the contrary, under the blazing profound rays. However, the black-robed figure stood there in a relaxed manner, not moving at all. Instantly, the difference in strength was obvious. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly as she stared at the black-robed man. Her heart was slightly shocked. This black-robed man was very strong. This kind of strength was much stronger than those elders she had met in the Palace of Darkness. Most importantly, that black-robed man, when he was fighting with her, he didn't use his full strength. It was totally like a cat playing with a mouse. He was giving her a show of strength. Did he want her to fear him? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted unknowingly. It reflected the coldness of frost. She needed to take care of Feng Shi when she was fighting with the black-robed man. More or less affected. However, even without Feng Shi's presence, she might not even be able to defeat him. Little girl, you and what the Palace of Gloomy Darkness said are very different. The corner of the black-robed man's mouth twitched in mockery. How boring. I thought. I really met a worthy opponent. His tone was filled with disdain and ridicule. The game is over. You can go to hell now. He raised his hand and the majestic profound energy of the scorching sun burst forth. A terrifying and powerful aura instantly eroded the entire space. Bang, bang, bang. Deafening collisions resounded one after another. The entire back garden was razed to the ground. Yiqing Luo was forced to hold Feng Shi tightly and retreat step by step. They didn't even have a place to stay. However, there was a huge commotion here. It quickly attracted the attention of the others. Soon a lot of shouting and clamoring could be heard. Footsteps were heard hurriedly rushing towards Yiqing Luo. The black-robed man looked in the direction of the banquet and sighed in disappointment. I actually forgot to set up a barrier and was discovered by that group of people. But the black-robed man suddenly raised his head. Under the black robe, a pair of sinister and chilly eyes were revealed. Like a cold pond, it met Yiqing Luo's gaze. Before they rush over, I can still take your life. His speed suddenly increased. Chapter 48-64. The black shadow carried a majestic hurricane. It blew the girl's hair into a mess. Fairy, fairy sister. The little girl stretched out her arms and hugged Yiqing Luo tightly, her voice trembling. Xiao Tuanzi looked at Hong Mei and the black-robed man not far away. Her little body was shivering. Yiqing Luo caressed her head and comforted her. Don't be afraid, I'm here. Her charming eyes were sharp as she held her tightly in her arms. Sisi, hold me tight. Feng Shi's little hands immediately hugged Yiqing Luo tightly. At the same time, the black-robed man's hand stretched out towards her. That hand was like an eagle's claw. Under the illumination of the dazzling profound light, his sharp nails flickered with a cold glint. Yiqing Luo's fingers suddenly lifted up. The feather fan rolled wildly, and the wind blade was like a hot knife through butter. It blocked the black-robed man's attack. Then her fingertips moved. The rolling wave turned into a sharp blade, and cut towards the black-robed man's wrist. At this moment, she felt a chill on her cheek. Then the person in his arms seemed to be violently pulled by something. A powerful force grabbed Feng Shi and lifted her up abruptly. Yiqing Luo's expression suddenly changed. The enemy's target was Feng Shi. Yiqing Luo reacted and wanted to hug Feng Shi back. But when she retracted the profound light, the black-robed man's attack was getting closer. At the moment when the attack was pressed down, Yi Qingluo was shocked and took half a step back. The force in her arms was lightened. Fengshi was swept away by a horrifying air wave. Fengshi. Yi Qingluo suddenly split a path and rushed towards the black-robed man. Forget it, it seems. I can't kill you today. Then I'll kill you another day. The black-robed man's expression didn't change. You have to keep your life and let me finish you. As the black-robed man finished his words, Yi Qingluo had already rushed in front of the black-robed man. She waved her feather fan and stabbed it forward. The figure in front of her suddenly dissipated in the air like a wisp of green smoke. It was as if everything that had happened just now was just an illusion. Dark, dark palace. Yi Qingluo's eyes were like frozen snow. Her slender fingers suddenly clenched into a fist. It was as if it wanted to crush something. His entire body exuded a sharp murderous aura. The black-robed man's target was Fengshi. From the very beginning, his target had been Fengshi. She had thought. The Palace of Obscure Darkness only intended to use Fengshi to lure her out. Why would the Palace of Darkness try to take advantage of Fengshi? Why on earth had the people of Tenyu Palace kidnapped Fengshi? Little Luo. The voice of Patriarch Feng came. He was followed by a large group of nobles. Feng family master walked forward quickly. Where is Cici? Have you found Cici? Yi Qingluo was just about to open her mouth. Someone nearby exclaimed, "Isn't that Miss Jiang? Jiang Hongmei? How did she get beaten up like this? Didn't Miss Feng say that young Master Feng was taken away by Miss Jiang? Now that Miss Jiang is here, she can definitely find young Master Xiao Xiao." Hongmei. The Jiang couple immediately went forward and hugged the battered Hongmei. Where on earth did you go to? How did you get yourself into this state? And did you take young Master Feng away? A barrage of questions. But there wasn't a single word of concern. Jiang Hongmei's heart was stabbed fiercely, especially when she saw Patriarch Feng holding Yi Qingluo's hand, full of worry and concern. Chapter 48-65. The Needle in Her Heart. Then he stabbed her in the heart. Jiang Hongmei opened her mouth in pain and blood gushed out. Her eyes were a little scarlet as she laid on the ground, saying word by word, "It's me." Jiang Hongmei closed her eyes hard. "It's me, it's all me." Slap. Patriarch Jiang slapped Jiang Hongmei's face. Jiang Hongmei fell onto the ground. She curled up in pain. However, the corners of his mouth were curled up in a smile. The farce over there. Yi Qingluo didn't care. She didn't look at the Jiang couple who deliberately wanted to draw a clear line between Hongmei and the family in front of the Feng family. Feng family patriarch didn't have such thoughts. Little Luo, so you saw Fengshi just now? Had Fengshi really been kidnapped by Jiang Hongmei? Could Cici be kidnapped? The old man's face was full of anxiety. The joy he had when he saw Yi Qingluo had subsided. Yi Qingluo nodded. She took her away. I did see Cici just now. She lowered her eyes as her long and thick eyelashes fluttered gently. Her eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. I'm sorry, grandfather, I couldn't protect Cici. In front of her eyes. Kidnapped Fengshi. And she couldn't do anything about it. She didn't even know the whereabouts of the other party. The last trace of hope on the old man's face had completely collapsed. He looked at Yi Qingluo with a dull look. Cici, he was taken away. Yi Qingluo clenched her slender fingers. I don't know, why did they kidnap Cici? Who kidnapped Cici? Did you see clearly? Feng family patriarch asked anxiously. Yi Qingluo's mouth moved. She raised her eyes to see countless noble guests surrounding her. She swallowed back the words and answered silently. Black-robed man couldn't see his face clearly. He was very tall and his voice was very cold. The crowd was in an uproar. This range was too wide. Even if every household was searched, that would take 10 days to half a month. Fengshi couldn't wait that long. Yi Qingluo patted Feng family patriarch's hand. Then he looked in Hongmei's direction. Her eyes were so cold that they seemed to be quenched in ice. Hongmei colluded with outsiders to kidnap my Feng family's young master. Her eyes were sharp, and her voice was gloomy. Imprison him in the Feng family's dungeon. If anything happens to Cici, the Jiang clan will be buried with her. The girl's voice was like a raging flame. under the enchanting black light. It was filled with dense killing intent. The Jiang couple did not dare to plead for leniency. Watching Hong Mei being taken away by the Feng family's guards on both sides, she could only watch helplessly. The Jiang couple still wanted to plead for leniency. But something happened to Feng Shi. As a result, Feng clan master didn't have the energy to pay attention to the Jiang couple's plea. It was a reunion banquet. He was originally very happy. But before the previous wave subsided, another wave arose. In the study of another courtyard. Little Luo, what did you want to say just now? Do you know who kidnapped Cici? Feng family master asked eagerly. Earlier when Yiqing Luo was answering him, there was an obvious pause. He seemed to have something to say. But in the end, it was because there were too many people. He changed the topic. So after the banquet ended, Feng family patriarch brought Yiqing Luo to the study. Yiqing Luo nodded. I know who it is, but her vision swept past Feng Zhongqing and Ji Wuhua who were sitting aside. I'm discussing business with grandfather. What are you two doing here? Chapter 4866. To help you save Cici, of course. Ji Wuhua clenched his fists. Don't worry. I'll definitely help you bring Feng Shi back. He clenched his fist and said excitedly, This is my first time helping my goddess. Feng Zhongqing said. Young master is the son of the acting divine emperor. Yiqing Luo. His gaze shifted and landed on the red-clothed man in the corner, who was holding a teacup and drinking tea leisurely. Her shimmering eyes narrowed slightly. It's one thing for the two of them to be here, but why are you here as well? Sitting in the corner, he was expressionless, a solemn and cold person. Who else could it be but Zhu Wuxin? Zhu Wuxin calmly raised his eyes, his burning gaze focused on her eyes. I'm worried about you. Yiqing Luo's brows furrowed slightly. I don't have the time to correct the fact that we have nothing to do with each other. You don't need to bother about my matters. After that, she paused for a moment before her pink lips curled into a cold smile. You should have guessed that Cici was beaten up by some power. Yes. Zhu Wuxin's answer was straightforward and decisive. Yiqing Luo laughed. So, what are you doing here? You want to be a spy? Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wu Xian stared at the young lady's familiar yet foreign face. The face was not the face in his memory. But Yiqing Luo's aura could not be concealed. He stared intensely at Yiqing Luo, as though he wanted to carve Yiqing Luo deep into his heart. I told you, I won't do anything to hurt you. He paused and added, I care about you. Yiqing Luo still wanted to say something. Feng clan master had anxiously interrupted the two people's words. What force are you talking about? Who are these people that dare to kidnap Cici? Yiqing Luo retracted her gaze from Zhu Wu Xian as she replied, Dark Serene Palace. Feng clan master was taken aback. The name of this force. Yiqing Luo had mentioned it before. However, he had never heard of such a power in the god world. Previously after Yiqing Luo mentioned it. Thus, he sent people to investigate this faction. But there was not a single clue. I originally thought that this matter, Secluded Darkness Palace, was targeting me. Yiqing Luo lowered her head. It's not your fault. Feng family master's eyes were burning with anger and majesty. That Umbra Palace is obviously targeting our Feng family. What kind of inferior force dares to touch our Feng family repeatedly? Do you really think that you won't fail if you hide well? Yiqing Luo's eyes sunk. Ever since I was in the lower realm, the Palace of Secluded Darkness has been entangled with me all the way, I think. They already knew my identity. Her voice paused slightly. Her slender fingers were tightly knitted together. There was a trace of coldness in his eyes. The purpose of the Palace of Tenebrous Shadows. She glanced at Feng Zhongqing. I wasn't clear about it before, but now, I'm guessing that the Palace of Tenebrous Shadows is after the treasure of the Feng clan. The so-called treasures of the Feng family. The legend was almost mystical. It was as if obtaining the treasures of the Feng family would allow one to rule the world. Even Feng Liqiong, a member of the Feng family, couldn't help but want it. Not to mention the others. The Palace of Darkness schemed and schemed. His every move was as fierce as a tiger. He even tried to control her. If all her guesses were true, that meant that the people of the Palace of Darkness were extremely clear about the matters of the Emperor of God thousands of years ago. So they would have the same feeling as Feng Liqiang, the so-called treasure of the Feng family, on her Feng Ji's daughter. Chapter 4867. So here comes the problem. Why had the people of Tinyu Palace kidnapped Feng Shi? Could it be that he couldn't find a breakthrough from her? He wanted to start with Feng Shi? In other words, they already had a clue about the Feng family's treasure. And this clue was related to Feng Shi? What dark shadow palace? What kind of force is that? An impatient voice came from outside the door. Feng Liqiang strode in with large strides, bringing with her a cold killing intent. Which noble family does the House of Gloom belong to? It was obvious that Feng Liqiang had rushed over after hearing that Feng Shi had been kidnapped. His forehead was still dripping with sweat. Yiqing Luo looked at Feng Liqiang's solemn and cold expression. Her eyes were filled with obvious worry and impatience. From the looks of it, it didn't seem like what Grandpa had said. He didn't seem to care about Feng Shi at all. After all, this was his biological son. I've looked into it. There is no force called Palace of Gloomy Darkness in the divinity. Master Feng's face was dark. They must be refugees who have not registered with the Divine Emperor Mansion. People from the God world. His identity and status would be registered at the Divine Emperor Palace. This was also to prevent other profound practitioners from bringing living beings from the lower realms, or other realms to the God world, and mixing up the noble bloodline of the God world. Those who didn't go through the registration process were called refugees. Generally speaking, the refugees of the divine world would all be expelled from the divine world. Just like when Yiqing Luo came to the God realm. It was hidden in the 100-flower garden. It was also to avoid those from the God realm from treating Yiqing Luo as a refugee. Patriarch Feng wanted to hold a reunion banquet for Yiqing Luo. He also wanted to include Yiqing Luo in the Feng family's registration. It didn't matter whether Yiqing Luo's power had met the requirements of the God realm. Because she was the adopted daughter of the acting God Emperor. She was now a legal citizen of the God realm. However, the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was actually filled with refugees. This was something that Yiqing Luo had not expected. She had always thought that the people behind the Nether Palace were from the God realm. Furthermore, he had been hiding in the God realm for a very long time. Now tell her. The other party had appeared in the God realm, but he was not from there. Then, where did the Palace of Darkness and the person behind the scenes come from? Yiqing Luo was deep in thought. Feng Liqiang slammed the table. Refugees? What kind of refugees were they to actually form a force in the God world? Why are you targeting our Feng family? His vision suddenly congealed towards Yiqing Luo. The depths of her eyes carried a trace of frosty coldness. You just said that the other party was also after the Feng family's treasures. For now, this is my recommendation. Yiqing Luo nodded. From the Nirvana realm to the current God realm. You have perseverance. If this is a man chasing after a beauty, the beauty will definitely be so moved that she will devote her life to him. Ji Wuhua clicked his tongue and sighed with emotion. I won't. All of a sudden, a cold voice was heard. Everyone turned to the source of the voice. The man in the red robe at the corner put down the cup in his hand and looked at Yiqing Luo expressionlessly. I followed you from the Nirvana realm to the God realm, but you weren't moved by me. He paused for a moment. He then looked at Ji Wuhua. So your conclusion is wrong. Ji Wuhua. Everyone. Yiqing Luo. Why was it back to her again? The person behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness is indeed from the God realm. Zhu Wu Xian met Yiqing Luo's gaze and said calmly. The God Emperor Manor has no record of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. But that doesn't mean that the person behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness is a refugee. Chapter 4868. I followed you from Nirvana realm to God realm, but you weren't moved by me. His words paused slightly. He looked at Ji Wuhua again. So your conclusion is wrong. Ji Wuhua. Everyone. Yiqing Luo. Why was it back to her again? The mastermind behind the gloomy palace is indeed from God realm. Zhu Wuxian met Yi Qingluo's gaze and said calmly, God Emperor Manor has no record of the gloomy palace, but that doesn't mean that the mastermind is a refugee. Zhu Wuxian's words made the few of them look towards him. The red-robed ink-haired man's expression was calm and cold. Only when he looked at Yi Qingluo, his eyes were filled with burning emotions, so intense that it made Feng family's patriarch avert his gaze unnaturally. Yi Qingluo didn't respond to Zhu Wuxian's gaze. She only glanced at him faintly and looked towards Feng family's patriarch. What he said isn't without reason. After all, Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master was once a partner of the gloomy palace. There's a possibility that he even knows who the mastermind behind the gloomy palace is. Partner. Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master had once worked with the gloomy palace. What kind of powerhouse is the other party? Even the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master would work with them? Feng family's patriarch and Feng Liqiong's expressions changed slightly as they looked at Zhu Wuxian with a questioning gaze. Zhu Wuxian frowned slightly, as though he was unhappy with their gazes. But his expression didn't change at all as he replied calmly, I have long cut off all relations with the gloomy palace. His gaze was like a torch as he stared at Yi Qingluo. I said before, I will absolutely not do anything that will hurt you. It was a sincere and intense confession, which made Feng family's patriarch and Feng Liqiong feel awkward. The atmosphere became extremely strange. They only wanted to find out what kind of powerhouse the gloomy palace was. But Zhu Wuxian seemed as though he couldn't see their existence. He had completely ignored them, just as Feng Liqiong couldn't suppress the impatience in her heart, and was about to explode. Zhu Wuxian expressionlessly looked towards their direction. His clear black eyes were filled with coldness. He calmly looked at the two of them and replied, We've worked together before, but we've never seen each other's faces or fought against each other. He paused for a moment before continuing. The other party is very strong. That cold and indifferent attitude, and that concise and comprehensive explanation. Evidently, Zhu Wuxian really didn't want to bother with them. It was only on account that they were Yi Qingluo's relatives. He answered them reluctantly. However, to be able to make the pavilion master of the Red Clear Pavilion say the word very strong. The other party was truly powerful. Feng Liqiong waved her sleeve. A ghostly voice came from the darkness. He then knelt respectfully in front of Feng Liqiong. Go, investigate the situation of the nobles and the stronger profound practitioners as soon as possible. Feng Liqiong ordered. Yes. The Shadow Guard accepted the order. Regarding the investigation of the Palace of Darkness, he could only wait for the results of the investigation. Only then would he know where Feng Shi had been taken. Feng Liqiong left in a hurry. Yi Qingluo comforted Patriarch Feng with a few words and asked Granny Feng to support him back to the room to rest. She then got up and left the main hall. Zhu Wuxian followed closely behind as he walked forward. Hey, why are you following my goddess for? My goddess is mine. Ji Wuhua instantly stood up and chased after him. Chapter 4869. No, it doesn't look like it. Ji Wuhua shook his head. Feng Zhongqing pressed her down on her seat. Since Miss Qingluo will not be bullied, why do you need to go over? Of course Ji Wuhua wouldn't say that it was because he wanted to eavesdrop on them. To find out what was the relationship between that Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master and Miss Qingluo. His mind spun quickly as he changed the topic and stared at Feng Zhongqing. You're now the appointed young Miss Qingluo's fiancé. Aren't you worried that young Miss Qingluo will be snatched away by Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master? He touched his face and sighed. I originally thought that there wouldn't be a second man in the world who could be more handsome than me. Now the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion's pavilion master doesn't want to admit it, but he has no choice but to admit that he's better looking than me. Ji Wuhua mournfully covered his own face once again. He's even better looking than me. What if Miss Qingluo falls in love with him? What should I do? What should you do? Feng Zhongqing looked at the drama queen Ji Wuhua as his gentle brows revealed a sliver of helplessness. Since Miss Qing Luo didn't like the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master right from the start, then she wouldn't accept him in the future. As for me, I'm just following the arrangements of the acting god emperor. But Miss Qing Luo will not agree to this marriage, so I'm not considered as Miss Qing Luo's fiancé. Miss Qing Luo is so pretty and has such a personality. Do you really not have any feelings for her? Ji Wuhua's face was filled with suspicion. Feng Zhongqing shook his head and said, "The one I love is not her." Ji Wuhua's eyes suddenly lit up. You actually have someone you like? Then who do you like? Could she be even more beautiful than Miss Qing Luo? No. Feng Zhongqing continued to shake his head, but he didn't say a word about the person he liked. Ji Wuhua stared at Feng Changqing for a long time. Suddenly he crossed his arms in front of his chest, his face full of shame and indignation. You, the person you like, could it be me? Feng Changqing. Scram. He walked out of the hall. Yi Qing Luo then walked towards the room that her grandfather had arranged for her in the courtyard. Grandfather had already been worried sick about the reunion banquet. Then Feng Shi's abduction. Grandpa was under too much pressure. Yi Qing Luo felt that although it wasn't far from here to the Feng residence, but based on her grandfather's current condition, it was better to rest nearby. Hence, Yi Qing Luo suggested to stay in the other courtyard for a night. She even gave Granny Feng some aromatherapy to calm her grandfather's nerves, so that he could sleep more comfortably. He took a few steps. Yi Qing Luo suddenly stopped in her tracks as she turned her head around and looked at the man behind her with an unpleasant expression. Why are you following me for? The red-clothed, black-haired man was expressionless. A pair of eyes that were as calm as an ancient well, like an emotionless crystal. Sparkling and translucent, beautiful, beautiful. However, it did not have the slightest luster of a soul. He gazed deeply into her face. We haven't seen each other for a long time. Yi Qing Luo took a deep breath. When we were in the lower realm, wasn't what I said clear enough? Very clear. Zhu Wuxin said calmly. You said that it is your right, but whether or not I continue to like you is my right. He narrowed his eyes slightly. Yi Qing Luo, you've been in the god realm for such a long time. That man has not come looking for you? Yi Qing Luo's face turned cold. This has nothing to do with Master Zhu, right? Yes. Zhu Wuxin's voice was a little chilly when he spoke words of love. Everything about you is related to me. Chapter 4870. Yi Qing Luo. She pursed her pink lips, not wanting to waste her breath talking to him about give up on her. Don't pester her, etc., etc. Anyway, Zhu Wu Xian's paranoia was already beyond cure. He wouldn't listen. She might as well ask directly. Why did you come to God Realm? Because of you. Zhu Wu Xian gazed deeply at her. I know you came to God Realm, so I came. Not waiting for Yi Qing Luo to say a word, he continued. I knew you came to God Realm, so I specially followed you here. But Dmo Xian didn't. His lips seemed to curl up slightly. It made that cold face revealed a gentleness which didn't match his character. This is enough to prove that to him. You're not the most important. He put on a very happy look. Yi Qing Luo, only I really like you. Saying that, Zhu Wu Xian took a step closer to her. He stretched out his hand towards her, as though he wanted to hold her wrist. Yi Qing Luo immediately took a step back as her eyes sunk slightly. Zhu Wu Xian, I don't want to talk nonsense with you. Zhu Wu Xian's body stiffened as though he had suffered a blow as his arm drooped down bit by bit. His eyes were as deep as water as he stared deeply at Yi Qing Luo. Looking at him, it indeed made one's heart ache. Nonsense. To you, my feelings towards you are just nonsense? Zhu Wu Xian scoffed lightly as his eyes turned frosty. Yi Qing Luo's expression was calm as she didn't have any intention of being moved as she spoke calmly. Zhu Wu Xian, I respect every single feeling and respect your obsession towards me. But this obsession of yours has obviously troubled me. Her eyes were very faint as her long and narrow eyes were without any ripples. Since you don't respect my answer to you, then I don't need to respect your obsession. Zhu Wu Xian's pupils seemed to be surging with waves. One wave after another surged wildly. In the end, there was no sound. Yi Qingluo's fingertips gently brushed past the hair on her forehead as her peerless brows were indifferent. I'm very grateful for your worry and concern towards me, but I don't need it. Her gaze was cold as she calmly met Zhu Wuxian's serene and lifeless eyes. If you came to God Realm because of me, then now you can leave. Yi Qingluo. Zhu Wuxian's tone was slightly angry. His cold and emotionless face was dark and gloomy. I knew long ago that you weren't her. That she was naturally referring to the Xiao Qingluo who once gave little Chu heartless warmth. Yi Qingluo didn't have any other expression, only looking at him quietly. Don't you want to know why I'm working with the Palace of Darkness? Zhu Wuxian let out a low chuckle. His thick and long eyelashes drooped slightly, covering his eyes that were filled with coldness and pain. Because the Palace of Gloomy Shadows promised me that they would help me summon back the soul that originally belonged to her, and let her, who has me in her heart, return to my side. Zhu Wuxian's words made Yi Qingluo's pupils shrink slightly. Zhu Wuxian's expression did not seem to be lying. That also meant, actually, the people of the Gloomy Palace already knew her true identity. Did he know that there was another soul in her body? Even this kind of thing. Does the Palace of Gloomy Darkness know about it? As for the Dark Abyss Palace, how did she know about something that only she and Xian knew? Initially, I really hoped that she could come back. Zhu Wuxian's deep and low voice entered her ears once again. He sneered as his tone was filled with ridicule. But later on, I dispelled this idea. Chapter 48-71. Zhu Wuxian raised his eyes. His gaze was burning, as deep as a cold lake, as he stared at her without blinking. I hope the person who remains in this body is you. The man's voice was icy cold. She couldn't tell whether he was happy or angry, but it still made Yi Qingluo's heart jolt. You said, I like you because of my obsession. Zhu Wuxian's thin lips curled slightly. His cold face revealed a faint smile. Then now. Do you feel it's still obsession? Yi Qingluo's pupils contracted slightly. Still, he was unable to answer. If she said it was because of obsession. But he had long known that this body of hers had already changed a core, and was no longer the little Qingluo who gave him warmth in the past, and had been pursuing till now. This really could no longer be considered as obsession towards the past. What he meant was, the person he liked was the current her, and not the past her? Zhu Wuxian's smile didn't diminish. Instead it became even more intense. Yes, I like you. Yi Qingluo was stunned once again. After some time, she regained her senses, as her eyes congealed slightly. Zhu Wuxian. Her voice was very soft. She was obviously close at hand, but there was an inexplicable feeling. Zhu Wuxian inexplicably didn't want to listen to the young lady's later words. But the young lady's voice was heard immediately. No matter if your obsession is it the past her, or me between us, it's impossible. His eyes were like a bottomless abyss, dark and silent. Yi Qingluo continued. Moreover, no matter if it's your pleasure, or your obsession, it can't conceal the fact that you once made use of my trust towards you, and destroyed the trust one have towards you. Zhu Wuxian, I won't believe you. She turned around as she headed towards her own room. Go back, don't look for me anymore. Her resolute back view, without any reluctance. Cold, aloof, arrogant, unattainable. Zhu Wuxian's hands, which were hanging by his side, tightened. The storm which gathered in his eyes seemed as though it was going to swallow him into the darkness. Until the young lady took a few steps away. His thin lips moved slightly, as he spoke out coldly. I know, where is the nearest base of secluded darkness palace in God Realm? The slender figure in front of him suddenly stopped. Night. The moonlight was cold and gloomy. It was as if all the light had been covered. Under the night sky, the two figures were like ghosts. Until it stopped outside one of the 5 great aristocratic families, the Jiang aristocratic family. Jiang Mansion? Yi Qingluo looked up at the plaque in front of her and frowned slightly. This has something to do with the Jiang family's aristocrats? Under the dim moonlight, the red-clothed, black-haired man stood quietly in the darkness like a lonely elf. He looked at the side of the girl's face and said faintly, It can be considered related. Sort of. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. I'll listen to you and bear with it till nighttime before I start to take action. I only want to bring Cece home now. I don't have the patience to play the game of you guess I guess with you. Either say it or shut up. Zhu Wuxin did not speak again. Instead, he turned around and leaped into the Jiang manor. Yiqing Luo suppressed the anxiety in her stomach and followed suit. Soon, the two of them quietly approached each other. In the most remote and dark place of the Jiang Mansion's dungeon. The dungeon was really built underground. The abandoned courtyard was the entrance. Weeds were overgrown, and it looked extremely desolate. But just as they stepped into the abandoned courtyard, Yiqing Luo sensed an extremely cold aura, lingering in the courtyard. Chapter 4872. It was a very sinister aura. The people of Gloomy Palace really know how to hide. Yiqing Luo sneered as her lips curled upwards. The cold, enchanting arc made the pair of long, narrow, and charming eyes exude a bit of coldness in the dark and gloomy abandoned courtyard. Who could have imagined it? The base of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Would it be hidden in the dungeon of the Jiang family? This was indeed a place, so safe that no one would be able to guess where it was. Yiqing Luo's gaze turned slightly as she congealed towards Zhu Wuxian. Are you sure? The girl's tone was not cold, but there was doubt in it. This caused Zhu Wuxin's heart to violently thump. His eyes dimmed and his voice was hoarse. I won't hurt you. Yiqing Luo smiled but didn't give any response. Zhu Wuxin pursed his lips, and a trace of pain and sorrow flashed in his eyes. He clenched his fingers into a fist and suppressed the pain in his chest. He said, "Let's go." One word came out of his mouth. He had already taken the lead and stepped into the cool entrance of the dungeon. The black-haired man in red blended into the night. It was as if he belonged to the darkness. Looking at Zhu Wuxin's back, Yiqing Luo's pink lips moved slightly. He wanted to say something, but the words that were about to come out of his mouth stopped. In the end, he didn't say anything and followed Zhu Wuxin. The path to the dungeon was long and dark. It was so quiet that only the sound of their clothes rubbing against each other could be heard. Yiqing Luo had been releasing her perception to the maximum, as she vigilantly sensed the surrounding situation. After walking for the time it takes for half an incense stick to burn, Yiqing Luo's ears faintly heard a few voices. She stopped in her tracks. In the next instant, her wrist was grabbed by the man. The cold touch made Yiqing Luo want to shake it off. However, the man was very strong. Pulling her along, he turned abruptly in another direction. It was a fork in the road. That was the moment he turned into the intersection. Flames could be seen ahead. It was clearly swaying, and it was accompanied by a few people's complaints. "Boss, why did you bring that brat here? So hard to please. I really want to hack him to death. Boss said that none of us are allowed to touch that brat. It seems like the higher-ups need that brat. It's because of boss's order that that brat is so lawless and out of control. He's sure that we won't dare to do anything to him. All right, let's go out and buy some candied haws. When boss comes back, let's see how that brat dies." The few of them were cursing and swearing as they walked past Yiqing Luo and Zhu Wuxian. No one noticed the two of them. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly. She narrowed her eyes. Those people should be disciples of the Dark Nether Palace. From their conversation, Yiqing Luo was certain. The brat they were talking about should be Fengxi. As for the boss, it was the black-robed man that they had met before. Looks like Fengxi was safe for the time being. He could even torture these dark, secluded palace disciples to such a state. Worthy of being the child of the Feng family. Yiqing Luo's heart was finally at ease. The group of people walked out of the dungeon. Yiqing Luo swung Zhu Wuxian's hand away. "Can you let go now?" The big hand that held her wrist. His 5 fingers slightly increased the strength. After a moment of silence, he then released his hand. "Let's go." Yiqing Luo's gaze looked towards the direction of the intersection. This dungeon. Why are there 2 paths? That side, where does it lead to? Zhu Wuxian took a look at the endless darkness ahead. He didn't answer Yi Qingluo's question. He only indifferently looked towards the direction where those dark secluded palace disciples had walked past. Fengshi, it's this way. Chapter 48-73. Yi Qingluo's slender brows rose slightly as she fixed her gaze on that path as she took a look. Following that, she turned back and walked towards Fengshi's path. Let's go. The two of them walked forward silently. This time round, they didn't meet any other secluded palace's disciples. After walking for a while, Yi Qingluo could obviously feel the overflowing evil qi in front of her. Zhu Wu Xian stretched out his hand to grab her arm. But Yi Qingluo avoided it. She took a step forward and leaned sideways against the uneven wall as she hid herself in the darkness. Zhu Wu Xian's hand grabbed onto empty air. He lowered his eyes and in the darkness, he gazed at his frozen hand in midair. Slightly stunned for a moment, he slowly retracted his hand. Immediately after, he turned sideways and hid into the darkness. They walked forward for a distance. Yi Qingluo could see very clearly in front of her, a huge iron door, horizontally in front. There were a few tall and sturdy secluded palace's disciples dressed in black robes as they leaned on the side and chatted idly. There was a bright light swaying in the wind. It made the reflection of the steel door extremely long. If they wanted to enter from here, they definitely had to defeat these secluded palace's disciples first. But the moment they took action, it would definitely attract the attention of secluded palace. That would be a huge risk to Fengshi's safety. Yi Qingluo's slender fingers caressed the profound phoenix ring as she squinted her eyes slightly. Looks like I can only use poison. Just as she took out a bottle of poison powder, she was prepared to blend into the air silently and make those secluded palace's disciples who were guarding the door faint. All of a sudden, a crisp, young voice rang out from behind him. I heard that Elder Su has kidnapped a little brat. Where is he? That voice was not far away, just at the corner in front. Yi Qingluo's body suddenly stiffened. She turned her head to look at that intersection, at the lights which appeared. There were at least 5 to 6 people's footsteps. Her complexion turned slightly pale. At this moment, she was in a dilemma. If the person behind her took another few steps forward, they would definitely discover her and Zhu Wu Xian. If they moved forward, those secluded palace's disciples who were guarding outside the steel door would discover them. Don't move. Zhu Wuxin's low and hoarse voice rang in his ears. Then, his hand grasped her wrist through the sleeve of her robe. Yi Qingluo's body lightened. His feet were suspended in the air. He had already been brought into the sky. This movement was very big. However, Zhu Wuxin controlled it very well, not making any sound at all. In addition, the crisp and tender voice on the other side was still chattering nonstop. It also covered the slight sound of Yi Qingluo's sleeves fluttering in the wind. Perhaps he knew that she did not like his touch. Zhu Wuxin only used the strength of one hand to hook her body and maintain her balance. They weren't close at all. His other hand was tightly gripping the protruding part of the rock wall. Fortunately, the cave was very high up. The two of them leaped into the air and hung on the cliff. The people below did not notice their presence. Soon 6 attendants escorted a person over. The 2 attendants in front carried lanterns. The bright light illuminated the people in the middle clearly. That was a young lady who was around 11 or 12 years old and looked extremely adorable, dressed in a pink long dress, holding 2 skewers of candied haws in her hands. One look and one could tell that she was a pampered little princess. When a row of people walked to the steel door, the few people guarding the door immediately straightened their bodies and bowed respectfully towards the young lady. Princess Ling Long. Young lady Ling Long waved her hand. Elder Su caught a little brat. I want to meet that little brat. Chapter 48-74. The secluded palace's disciple looked at each other in dismay as he replied hesitantly. Elder Su had ordered that no one is allowed to go near that little brat. Princess Linglong's expression sunk instantly. What you mean is, even I can't do it. Princess Linglong. The secluded palace's disciple's face turned green. Please don't make things difficult for me. Linglong's face was cold as she threw the candied haws in her hands towards an attendant by the side. She hurried past the few attendants and walked towards the secluded palace's disciple. I want to make things difficult for you. What can you do? Linglong placed her hands on her waist in an extremely pampered manner as she raised her chin and walked towards the secluded palace's disciple. Her face was filled with delight. She was relying on the fact that they didn't dare to touch her. And without any scruples, the secluded palace's disciple instantly retreated in a fluster. Princess Linglong, we are only listening to Elder Su's orders. You also know Elder Su's temper. If I ask you to look for that little brat and Elder Su finds out, Elder Su will not blame you, but Elder Su will definitely kill us. If you don't give way, I will kill you right now. Linglong was apparently a spoiled little princess, so arrogant that she was out of control, totally disregarding those secluded palace's disciples who were guarding the entrance. After she finished her words, she raised her hand. Go. The attendants didn't hesitate at all as they walked towards the direction of the secluded palace's disciples. These attendants, apparently all of them had their own unique skills. When they released all the profound energy from their bodies, the entire underground cave seemed to be surging with earth-shattering waves. The secluded palace's disciples were so scared that they were shivering. He was angry and indignant at the same time, but most of them were fearful. They didn't dare to make a move against these attendants. The scene was a little chaotic. The longer Yiqing Luo hung in the air. Zhu Wu Xian, who was carrying her with one hand, gradually increased his strength. The little princess below apparently didn't intend to use the fastest speed to barge into the secluded palace's underground prison. If this went on, Zhu Wu Xian would probably not be able to hold on. Furthermore, this posture of hanging in the air, it was really unbearable. He had to think of something. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly as her gaze suddenly fell onto the two attendants standing behind Princess Linglong, who were protecting the princess's safety. Her eyes suddenly brightened. She raised her hand and poked the back of Zhu Wuxin's hand. Zhu Wu Xian was slightly stunned as he turned his head towards Yiqing Luo in shock, as though he was extremely astonished that Yiqing Luo took the initiative to look for him. He was astonished to the point. Zhu Wuxin was so excited that he didn't have enough strength. The two of them almost fell down. Yiqing Luo indicated for him to look down. Zhu Wuxin stared at the two attendants with some surprise in his eyes. It seemed to be asking, "You want to do that?" Yiqing Luo nodded. Zhu Wuxin had no intention of stopping him. He nodded at her. The two of them looked at each other. His figure suddenly moved. While the attendants and the disciples of the Palace of Darkness were engaged in a chaotic battle, he quietly landed in a tunnel not far away. Then he quietly crept over. Yiqing Luo also didn't know why when Zhu Wu Xian sneaked over silently. Those people, none of them noticed his existence or the fluctuations in his aura. But Yiqing Luo knew herself. It was because of this jade pendant which Feng Liqiong gave her, as well as herself, the execution of the blink movement secret art. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at the man beside her as her eyes squinted slightly, concealing the deep meaning in her eyes. She didn't dare to say, nor did she dare to ask. Chapter 48-75. Their movements were almost like clones. He approached the two attendants at the same time. The two of them stretched out their hands at the same time and sprinkled the poison powder on the servant. Then he steadily caught the unconscious attendant and quickly dragged him away. The movements of the two people, light, slow, and fast. He didn't even catch the attention of Linglong, who had her hands on her hips and was looking at the Palace of Darkness disciple fighting with her attendant. The two of them quickly tore off the servant's coat and covered themselves with it. The people of secluded Darkness Palace all had one thing in common. He was dressed in a long black robe that covered his head. Only the embroidery on the black robe and the unique totem symbol proved his official position and status in the Palace of Darkness. The two of them put on their outer robes. Coincidentally, his entire body was hidden in the black robe. No one could see their faces. No one would recognize them. Zhu Wu Xian went to deal with the two fainted attendants. Yi-Ching Luo picked up the candied haws on the ground and walked towards the direction of the little princess. As soon as she stood still, she saw the little princess staring at her with a frown. "Little Seven, where did you go?" The little princess looked displeased. Yi-Ching Luo adjusted her tone and replied in a low voice, "There's movement over there." "Seven, is this the codename of the owner of this robe? No wonder you and Lil Six suddenly went over there." The little princess pursed her lips and said with a look of disdain, "You guys just like to make a fuss. This is my father's secret base. How could there be any commotion?" "Yes," Yi-Ching Luo replied. The little princess raised her hand and pointed forward. "Don't be lazy. Hurry up and catch those people and throw them away. There is no place in the Palace of Darkness that I can't go." The disciples of the secluded Darkness Palace were no match for the servants. If it wasn't for the fact that the attendants showed mercy and didn't have the intention to kill them, their corpses would have long been strewn across the iron gate. The little princess was about to send more people to beat them up. He decisively let them pass. What a joke! If they didn't let him in again, Elder Su had yet to return. They would really be dead. "Princess Linglong, I know my mistake. I'll bring you to that brat now." A wise man submits to circumstances. After all, the other party was Princess Linglong. Even if Elder Su asked, they were only forced by Princess Linglong's threat and could not do anything about it. Thinking like this, the disciples of secluded Darkness Palace immediately compromised. Then he sent 2 injured men to lead the way in front of him. Yi-Ching Luo took a glance at the empty space behind her. Chu Wuxin had yet to return. He watched as the little princess walked closer to the iron gate. Yi-Ching Luo retracted her gaze and quickened her pace to follow behind the little princess. The little princess was leading the way. It was truly unimpeded. She took the opportunity to scan her surroundings. He drew a map of the surrounding terrain in his mind. Along the way, he encountered many disciples dressed in black robes. When he saw Princess Linglong, all of them bowed respectfully. Then he saw the limping, scarred guide. They were not surprised at all. It was as if he was already used to it. It could be seen that Princess Linglong's unruly reputation in the Palace of Darkness was undeniable. Very quickly, the group of people arrived at the house where Little Wimp was imprisoned. In this dark and desolate dungeon, there was an independent space in the house. It was already considered as the best. The room's door was locked tightly. The sound of things crashing and crashing could also be heard from inside, accompanied by the child's crisp howling. "Let me out! Let me out!" Chapter 4876. Yi-Ching Luo's eyes congealed slightly. It was Feng Shi's voice. Feng Shi was indeed brought to the base of the Palace of Darkness. Yi-Ching Luo suppressed the worry in her heart and made her presence and everything the same as the other attendants, so quiet as though she didn't exist. "Xiaoqi." Suddenly, she heard Linglong's call. Yi-Ching Luo immediately raised her head and looked at Linglong. "Give it to me." She stretched out her hand. Yi-Ching Luo went into a blank as she saw her right hand waving towards her, and immediately reacted as she passed the candied fruit in her hand to Linglong. "This is the little brat you've caught?" Linglong stared at the tightly shut door as she laughed with interest. "Yes." The Palace of Darkness disciple immediately replied. "Open the door," Linglong ordered. There was a disciple guarding the door as an example. The Palace of Darkness disciple who was guarding outside the room naturally didn't dare to delay, as he quickly opened the door. Bam! A teapot was thrown towards Linglong. "Princess Linglong." Immediately, the surrounding people cried out in alarm. The teacup had already been smashed. Swoosh. Linglong's wrist was grabbed by someone as she was violently pulled backwards. That teacup was smashed onto the person who was blocking in front of her. Linglong could vaguely smell a very pleasant fragrance. She blinked her eyes as she raised her head. The person who was blocking in front of her let go of her. "Please punish me for offending Princess Linglong." Linglong looked at the shattered teacup on the ground, as well as the person's black robe which was drenched. There was even a thin layer of mist spreading. Apparently, the teacup which was thrown was filled with boiling hot tea. "No problem." Linglong shook her head. Xiaoqi, you saved me. Who else could the person who blocked the teacup for her if it wasn't Yiqing Luo? She was standing the closest. At this juncture, as an attendant, she naturally had to stand up for her master. She still hadn't managed to save Fengxi. She absolutely couldn't ruin her image. She didn't expect. Linglong's next sentence made Yiqing Luo even more certain that her actions this time round were simply right. I will make an exception and recommend you to be my personal attendant. She raised her chin arrogantly. Yiqing Luo cupped her fists. Thank you, Princess Linglong. Linglong looked at the room again and walked towards it. The disciple of secluded Darkness Palace immediately said, Princess Linglong, the brat inside is too violent. If you go in and hurt your precious daughter, his lordship will feel sorry for you. Linglong thought of the teacups and the sounds of them crashing to the ground. After thinking for a while, he pointed to Yiqing Luo. Let Xiaoqi accompany me in. This was exactly what Yiqing Luo wanted. Yiqing Luo walked in front. Linglong followed behind. He even specially locked the room. As soon as he entered the room, what greeted him was a flurry of things being thrown at him. Yiqing Luo immediately waved her robe and blocked those things. Linglong poked her little head out from behind her and stared curiously in the direction where the thing had been thrown from. Amidst the ruins, a pink and jade-carved little dumpling was standing there, panting. A pair of black and white clear big eyes stared fiercely at them. Her eyes were instantly filled with a trace of smile. You're the little brat that Elder Su had kidnapped? You're indeed so small. Let me out. Fengxi's expression was cold and her eyes were filled with a chilly intent. The current him. Totally no one could tell that he was so cute in front of Yiqing Luo. He looked exactly like the real Feng family's eldest grandson should have the attitude. Chapter 4877. Linglong walked past Yiqing Luo and directly towards Fengxi. It's not impossible for me to let you out. Fengxi looked at her warily. What's your motive? He naturally could tell. The identity of this young girl in front of him should be extremely distinguished in this place. Would she let him out? Linglong walked nearer to Fengxi and suddenly stretched out her hand. Fengxi was so shocked that she jumped backwards, out of Linglong's range of reach. Linglong's hand touched thin air. Her small, delicate face and big, bright eyes revealed a bit of interest. This unruly princess who called her attendant a slave just because she was slightly resisted. Now that she was rejected, she actually had no intention of getting angry. Instead, she laughed. What's there to be nervous about? Do you think I will eat you up? She retracted her hand and walked towards the vigilant Fengxi. Didn't you want to eat candied haws? I specially brought 2 skewers of candied haws for you. Her vision swept towards Yiqing Luo. Xiaoqi, pass the candied haws to him. Previously, Yiqing Luo heard a few secluded palaces disciples going out to buy candied haws for Fengxi. So, Linglong brought her attendant over specially to deliver candied haws to Fengxi. This unruly little princess. Would she be so kind? Yiqing Luo's expression remained unchanged as she walked towards Fengxi and passed the candied haws in her hand. Fengxi's cold face was filled with alertness when she saw her approaching, and he even took a few steps back. But at the moment when Yiqing Luo passed the candied haws to him, Fengxi seemed to have reacted as he raised his head abruptly and stared at Yiqing Luo, who was shrouded in a black robe. He stared at her with his big round eyes, as though he was trying to confirm something. Yiqing Luo looked at Fengxi with some astonishment. This lad recognized her? She had disguised herself so well. And she was actually recognized? Fengxi suddenly grabbed her arm with her small hand and moved her face closer, trying to see Su Qingsong's face under the black robe. Yiqing Luo hurriedly raised her hand and pressed on Fengxi's shoulder. Under the black robe, a pair of long and narrow eyes were revealed as he blinked at Fengxi. Then he disappeared into the darkness. Yiqing Luo took 2 steps back and stood firmly behind Linglong. Fengxi stood rooted to the spot. Linglong looked at Fengxi in confusion. Then she glanced sideways at the attendant behind her. Xiaoqi, what's going on? Your subordinate does not know. A deep and husky voice came out from Yiqing Luo's mouth. Linglong's gaze moved back and forth between the two of them for a while. Then he fixed his gaze on Fengxi. Do you like my attendant? The dumbfounded little person turned his head stiffly. Upon hearing Linglong's words, Zhang Xian frowned. He subconsciously took a glance at Yiqing Luo. However, Feng Shi was the legitimate grandson of the Feng family. Very quickly, he adjusted his train of thought. Fairy Sister must have dressed up like this to save him. With Fairy Sister here, he didn't need to be afraid. Thinking like this, the vigilance on Feng Shi's face faded a little. She pretended not to know Yiqing Luo at all and asked directly, "Who are you? What do you want to do?" Linglong didn't ask about Feng Shi's strange behavior when she saw her servant. She heard that the little dumpling was willing to respond to her. She was in a good mood and gave a rare smile. "I am Princess Linglong here. Everyone has to listen to me, including you." The little girl raised her chin, apparently very complacent. Feng Shi looked at her suspiciously. "Really? Everyone listens to you?" Chapter 48-78. A poor person with no friends. Linglong crossed her arms. "Why? Are you doubting me?" Feng Shi asked again. "Then you said you can let me out, is that true?" "Of course." Linglong was delighted. "Who dares to disobey my order?" Feng Shi pursed her lips, seemingly considering. After a while, she raised her head. "What do you want me to do?" Linglong walked straight over. Feng Shi took a step back, then took a look at where Yiqing Luo was standing. Finally, he stood still and let Linglong put her hand on his shoulder. Linglong's smile widened. "I don't need you to be a master, I just want you to play with me." Feng Shi? Play? Did he hear it wrong? This little princess actually wanted him to play with her? Play what? Play with his life. Linglong looked at the lad's shocked expression and smiled calmly. "Yes, this princess wants you to play with this princess." Feng Shi stood still. From the corner of his eyes, he glanced at the small hand on his shoulder. Fair and slender. It looked even smaller than his hand. He swallowed. "How do you want me to play with you?" "Play with me like how you usually play," said Linglong. Feng Shi was stunned, her face drooping. "I don't have friends." Linglong was stunned too. A look of disappointment appeared on her delicate and pretty little face. "You are the same as this princess, a pitiful person without friends?" She said the last 4 words very softly, almost inaudible, but it clearly floated into Feng Shi's ears. He seemed to understand something. This princess, who looked unruly and extremely confident and flamboyant. She looked beautiful on the surface, but the pain in her heart was no less than ordinary people. As the grandson of the Feng family, Feng Shi, he understood Linglong's feelings very well. They were high up and unreachable. They wanted something. As long as they asked, someone would do it for them. But it wasn't them who worked hard for what they wanted. What was the point of such a life? No friends around him? No, there were some. It was just that those so-called friends were only getting close to him because of the warnings of the elders of the family. Actually, those people must hate him. She didn't want to play with him at all. He has no friends. Apart from Grandpa and Granny Phoenix, there was only boundless loneliness left in his life. Presumably, Princess Linglong was probably the same as well. He was only 6 years old. However, his mentality was like that of an old man in his 70s. Feng Shi blinked her big eyes and looked at Linglong seriously. "If you keep your word, I can be your friend." Linglong's eyes lit up. "You're the one who said it. Then we are friends now." Yiqing Luo. He looked at the 2 children in the room with a dumbfounded expression. They shook hands and looked at each other. Then they played together. Yiqing Luo. Since when did her Cece become such a brat who easily messed around with others? What happened to being autistic? His mind was flooded with messages. Yiqing Luo didn't show it on her face. Looking at the 2 little ones, they laughed and played around. She slowly walked to the door and stood still, acting as a backdrop. This was also to prevent anyone from coming in, interrupting her Cece's honey trap, to cultivate feelings with Linglong. Chapter 48-79. Outside the door, they could faintly hear the voices of the secluded palace's disciples or attendants. Princess Ling Long seems to be smiling very happily. That wimpy brat is so hard to please. Why is he not making a fuss now? Why is Princess Ling Long looking for that wimpy brat? Why is it so lively inside? This is the first time we've heard Princess Ling Long smiling so happily. The secluded palace's disciples were also gossipy. Perhaps it's because Princess Ling Long had never seen anyone younger or similar in age to her. An attendant spoke calmly. Princess Ling Long heard that Elder Su had kidnapped a child, so she hurried over. That attendant paused slightly before continuing. She heard that the other party wanted to eat candied haws, so she brought her favorite candied haws along. The secluded palace's disciples nodded their heads in realization. That's true. His lordship had never allowed Princess Ling Long to interact with the outside world. Princess Ling Long indeed had never interacted with anyone other than us. No wonder Princess Ling Long took the initiative to look for her. Forget it, it's just 2 kids and Xiao Qi is guarding over there, so nothing will happen. Let Princess Ling Long play with that wimpy brat for a while. Yi Qing Luo heard those people's discussions outside the door as her slender eyes squinted slightly. Then he shifted his gaze to the smiling Ling Long. She sighed. This Ling Long should be the daughter of the mastermind behind the secluded palace? And the mastermind behind the secluded palace valued her a lot. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been nurtured into such a character. But keeping her in the secluded palace, not allowing her to come into contact with the outside world. This was like keeping a canary in a cage. Was it really, purely because of care? Yi Qing Luo didn't quite understand this care. Look at the current Ling Long. She was so adorable and her smile was beautiful. Her mannerisms, speech were all spoiled and willful. Probably because of the circle she came into contact with. Only the secluded palace. And the people in the secluded palace were all respectful towards her. So much so. When Ling Long saw that Feng-Shi was treating her differently from the others, she couldn't help but feel a chill run down her spine. Not only would she not be angry, she felt interesting. Let the 2 of them play for a while. Yi Qing Luo looked around unknowingly, scanning the surroundings. He memorized all the furnishings in the room. In his mind he made a plan to leave. From time to time, people would walk past the door. But no one approached the door. Yi Qing Luo had not received any news from Zhuwu Xian. About an hour later, the 2 little dumplings that were playing together were also tired. At this moment, they were sitting on the ground with their backs against each other, resting with their eyes closed. It had been a long time since the 2 of them had such happiness. Just as the peaceful and harmonious atmosphere was spreading intensely, suddenly he heard a low shout. What are you guys doing here? Elder Su. The greetings of the Dark Abyss Palace disciples came from outside. Elder Su strode over. Where is Feng family's tiny tot? He's inside. The disciple of Dark Palace answered respectfully. No, but just stay inside. Elder Su interrupted the disciple and waved his hand. He pushed the door open and walked into the room. Chapter 4880. Elder Su. Yi Qing Luo mimicked the greetings from the secluded palace's disciples outside. A black robe covered her entire body, leaving no gap. This Elder Su in front of her. He was the black-robed man who had appeared at the Feng family's courtyard and kidnapped Feng-Shi. Elder Su took a glance at Yi Qing Luo. Why are you here? He didn't wait for Yi Qing Luo's reply. He walked straight in. When he saw the 2 of them sitting back to back, his expression changed. Princess Ling Long, what are you doing here? This exclamation. It made the 2 who were tired of playing open their eyes. When Ling Long saw Elder Su, a sliver of impatience surfaced on her face. Elder Su, what are you shouting about? This is my territory. Do I need Elder Su's permission to go wherever I want? Elder Su's expression froze. Princess Ling Long, I'm just concerned about you. I'm fine, I don't need your concern. Ling Long gave him a disdainful glance. Then she stretched her waist and stood up slowly. Feng-Shi also stood up and stared at Elder Su with vigilance. There was a hint of fear on her face. Ling Long saw Feng Shi's action and patted his shoulder. I'm here. What are you afraid of? I will protect you. Princess Ling Long. Elder Su frowned and called out unhappily. That's the person his lordship wants. This princess likes him. Ling Long raised her head. He belongs to this princess. This princess will ask Imperial Father for him. Princess Ling Long. Elder Su's expression sunk. His lordship will not agree to your request. You are Princess Ling Long. You shouldn't be involved with these people. Whether he agrees or not is up to Father. It has nothing to do with you. Ling Long's expression turned cold. Or, Elder Su thinks that you can replace Father's thoughts. I don't dare. When Elder Su heard that, his expression changed as he lowered his head. If he were to wear this high hat on his head, if it reached his lordship's ears, that was regardless of whether he had ulterior motives. Even his lordship would not tolerate him. Ling Long snorted coldly, extremely arrogant. Then she raised her chin and asked arrogantly, What are you doing here? Did Father ask you to bring him over? No. The veins on Elder Su's forehead bulged, but he managed to suppress them. I just came to check on his condition. Ling Long raised her brows. Since Lord Father doesn't intend to summon Cici, then let Cici follow this princess first. Princess Ling Long, you mustn't do that. Elder Su glanced at Feng Shi and said, His identity is rather special. He's under the strict supervision of the Lord, so there's no room for any mistakes. You mean to say, something will happen to him if he hangs around this princess? Ling Long sneered. Her exquisite and beautiful face was filled with arrogance. In your eyes, this princess is a troublemaker? This subordinate dares not think so. Elder Su gritted his teeth as he spoke. The expression on his face was frozen. However, the words that came out of his mouth seemed to be for her sake. This subordinate is just worried that boy is too cunning and will deceive you, Your Highness, and hurt your heart. But I like him. Ling Long had no intention of compromising. As a result, in the end, Elder Su was the only one who compromised. After all, this was the princess that the Lord doted on the most. Elder Su agreed to let Feng Shi follow Ling Long. However, it was only limited to this underground palace. Chapter 4881. Elder Su took a step back. Ling Long naturally took a step back as well. In this underground palace, so be it. Anyway, no matter where it was, as long as she could play with Cici, it was fine. Ling Long didn't care. But Feng Shi's face turned pale. Princess Ling Long, you promised me. She promised to let him go. Why did she agree to Elder Su's words now? The range of activity was limited to this underground palace? What was the difference between locking him up? Ling Long held Feng Shi's hand and walked out of the room. The lights in the huge underground palace weren't bright, but not dark either. The candles hung on the walls lengthened their shadows. Ling Long asked with a serious expression. Aren't you out now? Feng Shi, you tricked me? I like you, why would I trick you? Ling Long frowned. Didn't I do what I promised you? Let him go. Now he had indeed left the house where he was being held captive. These words, there was nothing wrong with it. Feng Shi pursed her lips, unwilling to speak. Elder Su took a look at Feng Shi, and then at the arrogant princess who didn't fly into a rage like usual even though Feng Shi had given him a cold shoulder. He retracted his gaze and looked at the other disciples. Watch carefully, if you lose sight of him, all of you will die. Yes. The disciples of the Nether Palace were trembling in fear as they replied respectfully. Elder Su flicked his sleeves and left. Ling Long grabbed Feng Shi's hand. Let's go, I'll bring you to my room to play. There are many fun things inside. Before she could finish her words, Feng Shi swung her hand and slapped Ling Long's hand away. Her little face was filled with anger. I don't want to play with you. Without any warning, Ling Long was slapped away and staggered back a step. Yi Qing Luo supported her from behind in time. She was a little girl who had been pampered since young. Just one slap. A large red patch appeared on Ling Long's fair and tender skin. It looked extremely shocking. The expressions of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness disciples changed, and they rushed to Ling Long. How dare you? How dare you hurt Princess Ling Long? Immediately, other disciples of the Palace of Darkness lifted Feng Shi up. Just as he was about to slap her. "Stop." Linglong's expression turned slightly cold. She reprimanded and lashed her whip at the disciple who slapped her. She said with a cold face, "Did I ask you to do it? Get lost." The Darkness Palace disciple who was whipped and the other disciples all took 2 steps back and lowered their heads in apology. Linglong snorted coldly and looked back at Feng Shi. She stuffed the whip into Yi Qingluo's hand and strode over to Feng Shi. "Why are you angry with me?" She was arrogant and unreasonable when facing the disciples of the Dark Palace. When he looked at Feng Shi, there was nothing left. She patiently continued, "I like you, but that doesn't mean you can trample on my good intentions." Feng Shi gritted her teeth. She had tricked him with words. Why did it sound like it was his fault? Just as he was about to say something, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of the black-robed young lady behind Linglong. She shook her head at him. The words in Feng Shi's mouth stopped. She lowered her head and said in a muffled voice, "I want to leave this place." Linglong walked closer to him. "I want to leave too." "Aren't you a princess? Why can't you leave?" Feng Shi asked. Linglong said, "Other than leaving the restricted area that my father has set for me, I can't go anywhere else." Chapter 48-82. You're my first friend, then you're such a pitiful princess. Feng Shi was stunned. She raised her eyes and saw the melancholy in Linglong's eyes. All of the anger he felt just now had dissipated in an instant. Linglong chuckled, but that smile didn't reach her eyes and couldn't disperse the sadness in her eyes. "Yes, I have the respect and power of a princess, so I have to bear the price of enjoying the treatment of a princess." At this moment, she had already addressed herself as I, not this princess. Here, besides father, no one dares to criticize or disobey me. But similarly, what I have to pay is my freedom. Linglong slowly held Feng Shi's little hand. "You're my first friend." Feng Shi was still in a daze. The hand that held his was very warm, like the sun, shining on him warmly. Feng Shi's heart skipped a beat as her clear eyes stared unblinkingly at the little girl in front of her. After some time, he held Linglong's hand back. "You're my first friend too." Linglong's brows relaxed, that pair of beautiful eyes curved into a beautiful arc. "So, other than letting you leave this place, I can promise you anything you want." As she said that, she bent down slightly and got close to Feng Shi's ear. "I will beg father to let you off." Feng Shi was still in a daze when Linglong brought her to this underground palace, to her room. The princess's room was much more luxurious and exquisite than the room where Feng Shi was locked up. And it was filled with children's favorite toys, sweets and snacks. She could tell. Linglong was indeed a doted palace mistress. She sent the 2 little dumplings back to their room. Yi Qingluo was about to step into the room. Her wrist was pulled. "Xiaoqi, what are you doing?" Yi Qingluo stopped in her tracks, looking at the person who was pulling her back in a daze. It was Linglong's attendant. Yi Qingluo deliberated on how to answer the attendant. She heard him continue. "No one is allowed to enter Princess Linglong's room. While Princess Linglong is in a good mood, don't let her find out." Yi Qingluo silently retracted her leg. Princess Linglong sure has a lot of problems. She pursed her pink lips and quickly scanned Linglong's room through the black robe. If Feng Shi stayed here, there shouldn't be any danger. She left the room and closed the door. Outside the door, the group of attendants finally heaved a sigh of relief. They leaned against the wall and sat unsteadily. Princess Linglong seems to be in a good mood today. As long as we serve her carefully, we should be able to survive until tomorrow's shift. That brat just now scared me to death. He actually dared to reject Princess Linglong. Luckily, Princess Linglong is quite fond of that little brat. Otherwise, we will all be implicated. After today, we'll be able to change shifts soon. In front of others, the servants were cold and aloof, like orderly puppets. At this moment, they were all grumbling softly. Yi Qingluo casually found a place to sit down as she listened to the attendants' discussions. He roughly understood. Just how bad was Linglong's reputation? The servants described her as an evil woman who had crawled out of hell. Unruly, willful, cruel, and bloodthirsty. Killing without batting an eyelid. Yiqing Luo listened with a face of suspicion. Although the cute and pretty little princess was a little unreasonable, she was still a little arrogant. But it was not to the extent, using vicious words like killing people like flax, cruel and bloodthirsty to describe her. Chapter 4883. How bad was Princess Linglong's reputation? Yiqing Luo also found out. They were Princess Linglong's servants, and they worked in shifts. About 20 over people, 6 people would be chosen daily to take care of Princess Linglong. Every time the servants took care of Princess Linglong, there was a risk of losing their lives. Their lives depended on Princess Linglong's mood, so they took care of Princess Linglong. They were all on tenterhooks, afraid that they would lose their lives. The few of them were ridiculing. Suddenly one of the servants looked at Yiqing Luo. "Number 7, why are you so quiet today? Aren't you the one who said the most powerful?" Yiqing Luo, who was called out. She only wanted to be a quiet background. He was the 7th son of the emperor. Couldn't she know her place earlier? How was she going to maintain her image as the 7th servant? She felt like she was going to fall off the horse. Yiqing Luo's heart roared as her brain worked quickly, suppressing her voice. "Today, Princess Linglong seems to be very happy." "That's not true." The servant waved his hand. "This is the first time Princess Linglong interacted with a wimpy kid from the outside world. Princess Linglong should have treated him as her little toy. From what I see, Princess Linglong got a new toy and is so happy that she can't bear to part with it." Number 7. Someone came over and sized up Yiqing Luo suspiciously. "Princess Linglong is happy with a new toy. What has it got to do with you not grumbling or being afraid?" Even though they were separated by a black robe, Yiqing Luo could clearly feel the other party's gaze, examining her. Yiqing Luo was extremely calm as her voice was deep. "Because I am different from what you think." She waved away that person's hand and looked towards the tightly shut door. "Princess Linglong today, when she smiles, she looks very beautiful." Servants. "So looks were justice?" Because Princess Linglong smiled beautifully, so she couldn't even bear to grumble? Suddenly, squeak, the room door was opened. A young girl dressed in an exquisite long dress stood at the door. Princess Linglong. The servants were so shocked that they jumped up from the ground and hurriedly stood up straight respectfully. Linglong's beautiful big eyes stared straight at Yiqing Luo. Unable to tell the emotions within, the attendants held their breaths. He was afraid that if he was not careful, his life would be taken by this unruly and headstrong princess. Linglong's vision stared at Yiqing Luo for some time. "You said, this princess is very beautiful?" "Princess Linglong, this is what she said. It has nothing to do with us." The attendants immediately voiced out to clarify their relationship. However, Linglong did not even bother to look at them. He only stared deeply at Yiqing Luo as he repeated his question. "Say it one more time." Yiqing Luo's slightly drooping head slowly lifted up. Through the black robe, Yiqing Luo could see the sparkling light in the young and beautiful little princess's eyes. It was as dazzling as a luminous pearl. Yiqing Luo's pink lips moved as she said word by word. "If Princess smiles more often, you will definitely be more beautiful." As soon as he finished speaking, the attendants behind him all gasped in shock. He was quite frightened. This old 7th couldn't be crazy, right? She actually raised her opinion to Princess Linglong? She was going to cause them to die. However, they trembled as they waited for a long time. They didn't see Princess Linglong getting angry. On the contrary, Princess Linglong turned around and walked into the room. She even said, Chapter 4884. She even said, "You come in with me." Looking at Linglong's departing figure, the few attendants behind her lowered their voices. "You're in trouble for being targeted by Princess Linglong." "Alright, stop talking. If Princess Linglong hears you, you'll be called in too." Number 7. I wish you good luck. Yiqing Luo entered Linglong's room while the few of them were discussing. The door had just closed. Linglong's voice was heard. During this period of time, you have to report to me every day. Which meant that she, little 7, could not participate in the shift system. Yiqing Luo naturally had no objections. When she heard that there was a shift system, she had been thinking about how she could avoid it. Before she could think of a foolproof way to bring Feng Shi out from the underground palace of the secluded palace. It was much safer to stay by Linglong's side. Towards the habits of these attendants in the secluded palace, she didn't know if she was really put on shift, together with a group of familiar attendants. The possibility of her being exposed was too high. Still staying by Linglong's side. Presumably, Linglong had no idea what kind of character her own attendant had. Moreover, children were easier to fool. Yiqing Luo was satisfied, yes. Time passed by quickly. A day had passed. Feng Shi stayed in Linglong's room directly. Yiqing Luo, the attendant who was appointed to serve her personally, also stayed in Linglong's room and didn't leave. The relationship between the two little dumplings, after a day of interaction, they had really opened their hearts. They treated each other as their confidants. It was probably because Yiqing Luo had protected Linglong in an absolutely protective manner. Or perhaps Feng Shi liked her more. Linglong's attitude towards her was considered quite good. When the two of them were fooling around, or when the other attendants served exquisite delicacies, they were all invited to have their meals together. That was for a servant. In the secluded palace, it was the highest honor. The others originally thought that this number 7 was going to be dismembered by Princess Linglong. But they had not expected. In just a short few hours, number 7 foot had already gained Princess Linglong's recognition. He knew that. Princess Linglong liked it when people complimented her. They were praising him too much. It was too late for regrets. But there was no chance for regret. On the round mahogany table, the two little dumplings sat side by side, obediently eating the food in their bowls. Yiqing Luo sat beside Feng Shi, while serving the two little dumplings. "Cici, do you like the food here?" Linglong asked as she bit her wooden chopsticks and watched Feng Shi eat obediently without saying a word. Feng Shi put down her chopsticks and wiped her mouth. Then she looked at Linglong and said, "Delicious. If Cici likes it, I'll get the kitchen to make it for you every day." Linglong smiled. Feng Shi blinked her big eyes and then lowered her head slightly. "But I won't be able to eat it soon. As long as this princess is around, you can eat whatever you want." Linglong's vision shot towards Yiqing Luo. "Remember what Cici wants to eat, go prepare it." Princess Linglong. Yiqing Luo also put down her chopsticks. Young Master Feng should not be because he wants to eat anything. She didn't beat around the bush as she continued. Young Master Feng is a hostage that Master specially instructed Elder Su to lock up here. A day has already passed, and the Lord should soon send news back, and have someone take young Master Feng away. Chapter 4885. That's why young Master Feng feels that he won't be able to eat it soon. After a day of interaction, Yiqing Luo had some understanding towards this unruly little princess. You and her went around in circles. She absolutely couldn't understand the twists and turns. She couldn't figure out what you were hinting at. She could only point it out directly. Linglong then understood. The moment she said that, the entire room fell into silence. Linglong's hand, which was holding the wooden chopsticks, froze as she slammed it heavily on the table. "I will not let father take Cici away." Yiqing Luo met Linglong's sullen gaze as she spoke in a considerate tone. "Princess Linglong, I don't have any other intentions. I just want to remind you. In case Master wants to take young Master Feng away and Princess Linglong can't accept it, thus hurting the harmony between you two. Even if you tell me now, I can't accept it." Linglong's exquisite and beautiful face turned serious as she looked at Feng Shi seriously. "I want Cici to stay by my side, to be my playmate for life." Princess Linglong's idea is good. Yiqing Luo's voice gradually became gentle. "But Princess Linglong, have you ever thought Under the black robe, the young lady's gaze was very gentle. Is young Master Feng willing? Ling Long was just about to reply confidently. How would he dare to not comply with my request? I like him so much, he will definitely like me too. What's there to be unwilling about? But when she saw Feng Shi's slightly gloomy eyes, she swallowed back the words that were on the tip of her tongue. She spat out 3 words, but she didn't say anything else. That's right. How would Cece agree to accompany her in this dark place for life? She couldn't force anyone. But she couldn't force herself to be her first friend. Although she had never made friends before. But she also knew that friends couldn't be forced. Yi Qingluo looked at their silent expressions as she eased the atmosphere. Princess Ling Long, do you know the reason why Master kidnapped young Master Feng? If you know the reason, perhaps you can let young Master Feng stay by your side safe and sound. I don't know. Ling Long hung her head in defeat. My father has never allowed me to ask about him. Yi Qingluo consoled him. Young Master Feng is after all the Feng family's direct grandson, so Master shouldn't be too overboard. No. I'm going to find my father. Ling Long suddenly slammed the table and stood up. Cece is my friend. I can't let royal father hurt Cece. Saying that, she didn't wait for Yi Qingluo's reply or Feng Shi's reaction. He hurriedly walked out of the door. That was called valiant and high-spirited. Yi Qingluo. This little princess was really a doer. He was in a hurry. Princess Ling Long, where are you going? Princess Ling Long, Princess Ling Long. Outside the door, the servants called out. Ling Long walked very quickly. He completely ignored them. The attendants and the disciples of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness who were guarding at the side found it strange. He pushed open the door. He saw Yi Qingluo dressed in a black robe standing beside the mahogany table. Feng Shi, on the other hand, was sitting in front of a table full of delicacies, swinging her little feet. Number 7. The attendants shouted outside the door. Yi Qingluo turned around and said calmly, Princess Ling Long went to look for Master, and ordered me to look after young Master Feng. This excuse. There was no flaw. The attendants didn't ask any further. They closed the door again and stood guard outside. Fairy sister. There were no outsiders around. Feng Shi immediately jumped down from the chair and hugged Yi Qingluo's leg. Chapter 4886. Yi Qingluo bent over and carried Feng Shi in her arms, sizing him up. Are you hurt anywhere? Feng Shi shook his head. Even if they locked me up, they wouldn't dare to touch me. Yi Qingluo poked his forehead. I heard that you've created quite a ruckus here. In the house where he was locked up, everything was smashed to smithereens. It even made those secluded palaces' disciples fly into a rage. They even compromised and went out to buy candied haws. Feng Shi was probably the only one who could enjoy such treatment. But the attitude of the secluded palace's disciples. On the contrary, it made Yi Qingluo feel uneasy. This was enough to tell. The mastermind of the secluded palace needed Feng Shi. What did the mastermind of the secluded palace want to do to Feng Shi? What did he need Feng Shi to do? Yi Qingluo suppressed the suspicions in her heart as she rubbed Feng Shi's head. Sister is here, I'll bring you out soon. She paused and lowered her voice. Princess Ling Long likes you very much. If you keep following Princess Ling Long, she can protect you. When she mentioned Ling Long, the smile on the little man's face gradually faded. He pursed his lips as he drooped his head. His forehead rested on Yi Qingluo's shoulder. His voice sounded a little gloomy. Fairy sister, I don't want to lie to her. Yi Qingluo knew that the her he was referring to was Ling Long. Yi Qingluo laughed lightly. Cece also likes Princess Ling Long? MN. Feng Shi nodded without hesitation. Princess Ling Long treats me sincerely. I don't want to lie to her. All right. Yi Qingluo had no intention to refute as she gently rubbed the little dumpling's head. Cece, do whatever you want to do. Feng Shi suddenly raised his head. Her black and white eyes were sparkling. He grinned as his eyes curved. Amen. All the uneasiness and unhappiness in the bottom of his heart had completely dissipated. But, Cece, we have to leave this place. Yi Qingluo's vision looked towards the tightly shut door. Princess Linglong isn't around and the attendants in secluded palaces' disciples outside all think that I'm guarding you. This is our best chance to leave. She reached out and pinched Fengxi's nose. Cici, are you leaving? The smile on Fengxi's face, which had just appeared, slowly faded away. He looked at Yi Qingluo in a daze. Then, he glanced at the room that was filled with Linglong's aura. He had just made up his mind to reveal his identity and Yi Qingluo's identity to Linglong. I want to tell her. He also sincerely wanted to be friends with her. I want to tell her. He wanted to take her out of this dark place and let her see other colors in the world. But he couldn't. Even if he didn't know what kind of place this underground palace was. But it was also clear. This place was fraught with danger. Fairy Sister came here to save him. He was definitely taking a huge risk. Now was the best chance to leave. I missed it. I'm afraid, it's not just him who can't leave this place. Even Fairy Sister would be implicated by him. He could not be so selfish. Although he was small, his thoughts were extremely mature. In the blink of an eye, he used a clear and resolute gaze to look at her. Fairy Sister, I'll leave with you. He paused slightly. But before this, I want to tell her that I really treat her as my friend. Yi Qingluo touched his head. Go on. This was the little dumpling's first friend. Chapter 4887. Yi Qingluo couldn't deprive Fengxi of the joy of making her first friend. And Linglong, that girl, wasn't a bad person. To Linglong, Xiao Tuanzi was also her first friend. If she could, Yi Qingluo quite liked that the two of them could play together. It would be best if Fengxi could change Linglong's spoiled and willful temper. Fengxi took out a piece of paper and wrote down what he wanted to tell Linglong seriously. Every stroke was written in an extremely serious manner. Until he checked it 3 times. He then put down the pen. He placed the paper that was filled with words under Linglong's pillow. Fairy Sister, I'm done. Fengxi ran back to Yi Qingluo. Yi Qingluo patted his little shoulder. Have you decided? Fengxi nodded vigorously. The little girl's black and white eyes were filled with seriousness and solemnity. I know that Grandpa is worried about me. And I also know that Fairy Sister took a huge risk to save me. I can't be willful and only think about myself. He wanted to accompany his first friend. To accompany the friend who was alone other than him. But now it wasn't the time. He couldn't because of the importance he attached to friendship. Regardless of the others. He believed Princess Linglong would understand him. Yi Qingluo carried her with one hand. My little Cici, you've really grown up. She pinched the little boy's face. I'll bring you out now. Hold on tight to me. No matter what happens, don't make a sound. Can you do that? Fengxi nodded vigorously. Her little hands circled Yi Qingluo's neck. Cici will not be a burden to Fairy Sister. Be good. Yi Qingluo carried Fengxi and returned to the other side of the room. The Palace of Darkness really loved Linglong to the core. In this dungeon, which should be for the Jiang family's aristocrats, there was an extremely luxurious room specially built. Outside the window on the other side of Linglong's room was a flower bed. Under the bright luminous pearl, those transplanted flowers were in full bloom, bright purple and red. Extremely beautiful. Behind the flower bed, there was a towering wall. Yi Qingluo brought Fengxi over the garden and climbed over the wall. When she looked down, below them was a pitch-black tunnel. He seemed to have returned to the tunnel that he had passed through before coming here. The other end of Linglong's room was actually connected to this passage. If he followed the path, he would be able to leave the underground palace. She could leave the underground palace now. However, what about Zhu Wuxin? Hiding a servant for such a long time. With Zhu Wuxin's skills, he shouldn't be discovered by those people from Dark Nether Palace. Even if they found out, he could also escape. However, now she had left with Fengxi. Would Zhu Wuxin think that she was in this underground palace and was looking for her everywhere? When Yi Qingluo thought of this, her brows creased tightly into a bundle. How troublesome. Forget it, I'll send Fengxi out first. Yi Qingluo took a look at the tunnel below. He was about to jump down. Suddenly, he heard a panicked roar from behind him. Oh no! The little brat from the Feng family is gone. And seventh. What happened? Quick! Hurry up and find him. The footsteps of the Dark Abyss Palace disciples and servants got closer. Oh no, they had been discovered. How could it be so fast? Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed tightly as she lowered her head to look at the little one in her arms. Cece, hold on tight. Chapter 4888. Feng, she responded with an N. Yiqing Luo leaped up and landed lightly on the ground. Following that, she walked along the tunnel. It was pitch black inside the tunnel. She couldn't see the surrounding path. Yiqing Luo walked a few steps and sensed. Not right. When she came here, she specially constructed a map of the tunnel's topography in her mind as she walked. If she walked through it again, she would definitely feel a sense of familiarity. But the tunnel she was walking on now, the feeling was totally different. This tunnel wasn't the tunnel to leave the underworld. Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled the fork in the road when she came over. Could it be the tunnel she was walking on now? Was it another fork in the road? But now it was basically impossible for her to turn back. The Palace of Darkness's disciples would not give her this chance. She could only move forward. Yiqing Luo walked forward quickly. While she was moving forward quickly, she could clearly hear footsteps from all directions, and the sound of the Palace of Darkness's disciples exchanging information. In front, she could faintly see a bit of light. Yiqing Luo quietly got closer. To his surprise, he realized that the passageway led to a huge courtyard. In this cold and gloomy underground cave, there was an inexplicable strange feeling. This place? What place was this? In this underground palace? Why did they have to specially build such a courtyard that required so much time, effort, and money? Who was the person who stayed in this courtyard? Yiqing Luo recalled that Ling Long seemed to be the one who came from this tunnel. Could it be? The person in the courtyard was the mastermind behind the Palace of Darkness? Yiqing Luo's eyes wavered slightly. This side. Do you want to go take a look? That's a forbidden area. But we searched the entire underground palace and didn't find Feng family's brat and number 7. The disciples guarding the entrance of the underground prison didn't see the both of them leaving. Perhaps they are hiding here. Behind them, the Palace of Darkness's disciples' voices were getting closer. They were still feeling uneasy, hesitating if they should come over to search. Yiqing Luo heard their discussion as her heart started to pound. This was a forbidden area? There was actually a forbidden area in the Palace of Darkness's base? What kind of secret or treasure was hidden here? Yiqing Luo raised her eyebrows slightly, held Fengxi tightly, and jumped into the courtyard. Forbidden areas were the best places to hide. It was the moment she jumped into the courtyard. Footsteps could be heard from outside the courtyard. The disciples of Gloomy Palace caught up. Are we going in? I don't think so. What if the person is really hiding inside? Elder Su said that if we lose sight of him, all of us will have to die with him. Either way, I'll die. Let's go in. The disciples of Darkness Palace chattered for a long time outside the courtyard. In the end, he decided, enter. Yiqing Luo's current position. It was very close to the courtyard gate. As long as those people came in, she would definitely be discovered. But the place where she was standing now was a little awkward. The ground was covered with a thick layer of withered yellow leaves. All she had to do was lift her foot slightly and put it down. The rustling of leaves was extremely obvious. When those people heard it, they would be able to detect her position. The Palace of Darkness's disciples got closer to the courtyard gate bit by bit. From the footsteps, there were about 10 over of them. Yiqing Luo's heart started to race. The courtyard gate, slowly, was pushed open. You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.